Hi.
Hello everyone and welcome to the 45 subscribers special. Today we are gonna show you for this special occasion the myths and legends of motorsports in Second Life exhibition here at the SL22B, which is a big group of exhibitions where people from different communities create stands of their little communities here, so they can be shared with the rest of the world and people can get interest on them. With me today we have Luke Carmona.
Hello once again, everyone.
So we wanted to count with some other veteran drivers, but I think I didn't manage to properly coordinate with them due to some strugglings I had this week with other real life stuff, and I didn't manage to properly organize this, but at least we'll have with us the executor, the person who created this exhibition, so he will be able to give us a little input of some stands from what he could be told from the contributors of the exhibition. Since look, if I'm not wrong, you had different sources of people who helped you to document what's shown here.
Yeah, let's actually take a quick look over here first. So when you first arrive, typically you'd want to start on the right, but right over here we have our group and sim information, but below that is the special thanks, and all those names are the individuals who have helped provide information and or assets for this build that I threw together in only about a week. Technically 2, but I had to wait for a week to communicate with people and talk with them and try and see who I could get stuff from. And then I had to spend a week putting it all together. But we have Les White, who was in charge of Race SL, Moto SL, Formula SL back in the mid to late 2000s. Morticia Vilota, who currently races with us these days, but back then was known as Brave Ashbourne. She provided a ton of assets for today's event that we're going to be, or build that we're going to be looking over. Beloved Lil Devil, and then down at the bottom right, Sin. Both of them are from Amber Racing. They provided some of the drag racing, a drag racing and a Legends car that we'll look at, as well as the plane here in the middle. Donovan Mikulski, a lot of people know him nowadays. He's from Mostly Cars and currently provides a lot of racing vehicles and support for Spirit Racing League. Candy Tomorrow, she is a very prominent and active member of the current community, mainly helps out with Racers Island, but has been creating lots and lots of tracks. As of late, both ovals and road courses. We have Taylor Arilo. I don't know how to pronounce that properly. I apologize if she hears and it's incorrect. And then, so Taylor Arilo, Becky Acker, and Christina Kurtau. They're all from the Spirit Racing League and provided various assets, pictures mostly, between SRL, Grand Prix 1, and so on. Oh, and then there's Pumph. Pumph provided a D2 car, a very old D2 car.
Good. So all these cars will go over now in a moment, but first explain to us the plane in between. What's the meaning? Because of course we got the idea of all the cars around explained in the different series, but the plane, what it represents.
So the plane was created, as we can see by the text just off to the right of it. It is a small small, but it's a GB racing plane, something built back in 2006 by Beloved Little Devil, who is in charge of Amber Racing, and they mostly do drag racing these days. But way back in the day, before much of the Amber Racing stuff really kicked off, they were doing all kinds of stuff. And all kinds of innovative creations, and racing planes was one of them. Well, honestly, for this plane, I don't know entirely too much more about it. Just that it's quite old. So,
yeah, 20.
But I wanted to include something that wasn't just cars, things with 4 wheels or 2 wheels, because I mean this does technically have, well, 2 wheels because it's got the 2 on the front, but aircrafting should be included as well. I mean, racing is not just relegated to the ground. It happens up in the air, it can happen out in the water. I even wanted a boat, but I couldn't get my hands on one of those.
I know that sailing is quite popular in Second Life nowadays, but motorsport, water racing, I'm not aware of any so far, so I can't tell if I could recall.
Well, there's sea racing, like out on the Blake Sea, but that's mostly sailing. I'm not aware. There have been motorized themed water races, like with jet-powered boats and whatnot, but none that I'm aware of that are currently active.
Alright, so if you're fine with it, we can get started with the exhibition.
Yeah.
We have Evely around here as well. She's gonna be with us to do her contributions as well, especially in recent times. So, this card from here, let's read the text first. 2003 card 1.0. Did you know that you have this very card in your inventory? It resides in your library folder. Yes, that folder, the one that you never touch. The oldest vehicle instance I know about is the card in the inventory library, which was created shortly after the feature was released. Leviathan Linden, Andrew, his real name, co-founder of Second Life and developer of the first vehicle scripts. It is true, we all have this car in our inventories when we create our accounts, and nowadays it doesn't work particularly well. Like, you can race it but only backwards. It's a bit weird, but yes, this is a car that possibly the first car ever created in Second Life, isn't it?
It's very close to. From what I understand, it's not the very, very first, but it is extremely close to the very first. It's probably the earliest example that anyone is ever going to be able to interact with, let alone see. So, I remember back when I first joined in 2006, I was driving around the mainland in this thing. There weren't too many roads, and I would just be flipping and crashing all over the place. Because the fun thing about this kart is the physics. Because sure, when you hold down the throttle, it's fairly steady, but as soon as you let off the gas and you're going over a hill, if you land wrong, you are barrel rolling and flipping and crashing, and it was just fun. I loved it because the crashing was frankly hilarious. It just felt so real compared to what a lot of cars these days are. When they hit something or crash, they just kind of bounce off to the side or something, or they flip awkwardly. Now this thing tumbled like a stone, and it still can. Now the funny thing is that my alt account can actually drive this car normally. It's not locked to the reverse gear only, unlike my main account here. I've tried to drive it again via Luke, and I can't. If I get on my other account, I can drive it normally, and I wonder if that's because I disabled some certain settings that override a few controls. So this particular car, I'm not sure if this is the case for everyone, being it's in the library folder. Surely they have to fix it if not. But if you ever do try and drive this thing straight from your inventory folder, you may get stuck in the reverse gear. However, Asdria, fun fact, you remade this car and are selling it for, this is not an advertisement, I swear, but she's selling it for 1 linden on her store. It's a very faithful recreation of this exact build in like mesh or something like that. How'd you make it?
Yeah, so basically I took this card one day. I was inspired, or I don't know, and yeah, I said, okay, why don't I like create a functional version of this car, you know? And then I I went to a sandbox. I placed this car. I started to create prims because this car is of course made of prims. So what I did was just starting to create the prims, and copying the exact sizes and parameters of each prim, copying like 2 meters to the right, and one by one doing all of them until they were all placed. And after that I assembled them. I gave them a little different texture. Of course I used different scripts, ones that I had in my inventory from that I got for free from someone else. And it's true that it's not the most stable car, and on certain roads or surfaces it bumps a lot, but in other ones I managed to drive it quite well. So yeah, it was like a bit of a, for those that have checked my store, is a bit made of silly stuff, really silly stuff. So I somehow made it like with that idea, to create as a silly tribute to this car back then. So yeah, it can be checked in my store if you want. It's only 1 linden. So yeah, it was fun to recreate it, definitely.
Yeah. Now this cart, the default one here that's in everyone's inventory, it does have full permissions. I'm not sure if that's the same case for the script. I think it is the same case for the script, so you can modify this thing however you want. So I'm wondering if possibly I might be able to fix this to go forward, and then we can add it to the random races wheel. That'd be kind of crazy, wouldn't it? Imagine the races, people trying to lift off the corner, they hit a curb and everyone's starting to tumble like rocks. Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Would be worth a try. I think I'm not sure how the stuff in the library works, because there are some items from the library that even if they don't have the usual, brackets with no modify, no copy or whatever, some of them like actually are limited somehow, and you cannot modify them. So could be necessary to check if we can really
Well,
adapt that.
Evely here in the local chat says that Nakuri messed with it and got it to go forward. So.
Oh, that's good to know. You could play it with the script a bit and made it drive forward of it. So maybe I should do that as well. I try and update my version with the good script.
Yeah, and I do recall recently trying a fresh res of the 1.0 cart directly from the library folder, and it's still broken. So it'd be nice if somehow the Lindens or whoever's in charge of this kind of stuff gets wind of this and tries to fix it, because firstly, I don't think anything in the library folder should be broken, because it's going to everyone. And if I'm putting this thing on display, you'd think people would actually want to try it out. So Lindens, if you see it, let's fix this thing.
Alright, we'll make sure that they receive the message. Now let's jump for the next year, which is 2006, the same year of the plane we saw. GP1RR. Hey, were you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. GP1RR 19 Steelywalk Steelman Moto SL Season 1 winner. What you see before you is the bike belonging to the very first Moto SL champion, Steelywalk Steelman, marking the beginning of one of the most prolific racing organizations, Race SL, to ever exist through the mid to late 2000s, a congregation of hundreds of Second Life's earliest residents, and a proving ground for the representatives of various racing groups and those wishing to compete against them. Moto SL bikes created by Les White required riders to manually shift through every gear, had very intricate setup parameters, and could, in the early years, fling the riders off if they went off track. This is the bike in question that comes not only with the bike, there's also this trophy here. What can you tell us about?
So the trophy itself doesn't belong to the bike. I think that was from, it's from 2007 2008. So it's a little younger than the bike itself, but it's roughly from that period. So I included it next to it because that's what Les provided, just some random trophies here and there. But the bike itself here, so this is where I have to apologize very sincerely in advance, because I only know, in some cases, about as much as the text says. A lot of people know way more than I do, especially off the top of their heads. I could dig for information, but I don't have the time for that. Ooh, hey, JC just logged in. Maybe he'll be able to provide some info for future cars here.
Oh, yes, I will poke him.
But yeah, Moto SL was a incredibly popular series back in the mid to late 2000s. It had so many people that would show up and take part in these things. Massive sponsors that would actually take, so like legitimate, real sponsorship deals from actual companies would get involved in this stuff, because back in those early years of SL, it was the new frontier of the online world, and just a new way for companies to get involved and try and push their product or get their name out there. You had sims that were actually owned by companies like Pontiac, and I have a bike that Les provided to me, which is a Pontiac themed, or not themed per se, but Pontiac sponsored Moto SL bike. But I didn't want to include it in the build because against the policies of SL22B and whatnot, we can't have copyright so much as we can help it. I didn't want to have a gigantic Pontiac logo out there. But it was huge back in the day. But in 2006, it was still brand new, it was fresh. So I don't think it hadn't quite reached that point yet. It grew way bigger a couple years after that.
So now we have with us JC as well. JC is one of the most old drivers we have in the current grid that took part in this very early racing series back then in mid 2000s. Are you here, JC?
Yes. So yeah.
So
Hey, kid.
we were talking about this stand here, the 2006. Do you remember this stand? Did you already race here?
Well, I wasn't fortunate enough to race in 2006, but by 2007, I had already heard all the stories and was somehow aware of everything that had already happened. But 2006 was a long time ago.
2007, that is the year where we are gonna jump now with the Racers official F1 RRT Blue number 7. Racers Island just turned 18 years old on July 13th this year, of course. The oldest active dedicated racing sim that continues to stand the test of time. The car that you see before you was amongst the earliest examples to be conjured up by its community for organized competition, merely one of a plethora of vehicles that were raced exclusively under the Racers Island banner. Up until 2019, Racers Island was owned by one individual, Eddie Mathison, followed by a short but revitalizing period under Mango Darwinian. Cali Finesmith then saved the sim from collapse before Achille Sauber took ownership, an ambitious visionary and racing fanatic that sought to reshape the entire image of the sim, orchestrating and greenlighting new and or revitalized tracks before ownership was once more passed along. Now residing under the loving care of Cali Finesmith and Candy Tomorrow for the past few years. And this is the car in question from 2007.
Yep, it was raced or owned by Brave Ashbourne. I'm not sure if it was unique to Brave, but probably they just had a selection of vehicles to choose from, and this is what he chose to drive. If you look just to the top left of this vehicle, you can see some pictures, and a lot of those pictures that are cycling through that slideshow, which includes some Race SL stuff, Moto SL. It's got some images from those earliest years, about 2007, 2009, of Racers Island. Right now, none of those are popping up, but there are a ton of pictures in this thing, so we might not see one. So there's Moto SL. So that's some earlier stuff from 2000. That's 2006 right there. You can see there was a bike, a driver who was off their bike. So back then, again, returning to the bike for a moment, with them hitting the grass or going off track and being launched off their own bikes, that stopped after, I think it was 2007, I guess, when they fixed that, because SL had updated their physics, and what was happening is that the moment that many drivers were hitting the grass, they'd get thrown off, but their bikes would get launched up into the sky like a rocket, so it'd be gone. So they had to fix it to where it just topples over. You stay on the bike, but you're just going to topple over for a few moments. But yeah, some of these images that are cycling through, you can see, I'm not sure if that's Racers Island, could be. But yeah, Racers Island has so much history. 2007 to 2008, 9 or so, kind of a gap in that history because nothing was really recorded that well. Their blog started up in mid-late 2009, but that sim it's been around forever, and it's been extremely active. It's not in its heyday, but it's still kicking. Very healthy, I'd say.
I think it's just crazy that I think if you would have told somebody back in 2007, 2008 that Candy Tomorrow was gonna be running Racers Island, it would be hard to believe, because Candy has always been, independently doing her thing, and Racers Island seemed like such a big endeavor, and it was very exclusive to certain people. And if you would have told me that Candy tomorrow owned Racers Island, I would have never believed you.
Yeah, I wouldn't say. Well, speaking of, Candy tomorrow just TP'd here in front of us. So, hello, Candy, welcome. But she doesn't own Racers Island. She's merely helping out significantly with assets and management. Callie's currently fronting pretty much all the whole bill and all that kind of.
Either way, like her presence there, it wasn't really that prominent back in these days. Kenny Tomorrow wasn't like a Racers Island staple.
Right. Yeah. She's definitely pretty much taking the helm so far. Callie keeps it alive right now while she deals with her real life stuff much of the time, and then Candy does does all the track building, does all the event hosting. So she's become a massive part of the current existence of that sim.
Talking about Candy tomorrow, we have precisely here one of her cars back then, Midnight Thunder H4, the 14 of Candy tomorrow, which saw significant success at My Control Speedway, including the track record in 2007 and 2008. Candy and teammate Kane Beresford compete in KCM vehicles after forming their own team, KC standing for Candy and Kane. My Control Speedway used a revolutionary timing system involving multiple checkpoints to prevent track cutting, as well as allowing drivers and teams to build and script their own race cars. This led to an almost rolling style of racing, where the focus was on minimizing mistakes and staying on track, and the KCM cars were famous along with the Team Redline vehicles for being very fast but also relatively drivable. Candy Tomorrow built, scripted and textured this car. So now that we have Candy with us, we know that she doesn't join voice, but if she's listening to us, she can probably give us some input about the history of this car and this era of racing. In the meantime, Candy says, first time I raced at Racers Island in an official race was GP2 at Ant Canyon.
Yeah, so that was season 2. It had to have been season 2. Was it? No. Season 1, I think. Because I think I'm pretty sure I introduced those GPM cars. I don't know. I don't know when she showed up exactly. It was either when it was GPM or GP2. No, it was GPM, because she joined near the tail end of GP1.
I'm just curious, like, why Candy never raced at Racers Island before, like in the 2000s. Like Racers Island was like everybody raced there, but she wouldn't. I don't know if it was like the vehicles sucked. I mean, they did suck in hindsight, but but that's all we had. And you know, you had a congregation of racers who enjoyed doing it, but I know it was kind of cliquish back then. Like it felt like a very closed off community, but they were always very welcoming. And but I don't understand why you would never race it.
Yeah, she's currently typing. Looks like she is. Just for heads up for people listening, she's not tuned in to our her streaming channel, the voice channel in the Discord. So she's on a bit of a delay, hearing us late, so she'll respond a bit late. But she did confirm that she did join when it was GPM, the precursor to GP2, which was started maybe after rounds. I think the first round of GPM, aka GP2, was Sun Beach, round 3, I think, of Grand Prix 1's very first season in 2020. Although that might have been either late 2020 or very early 2021 at that point.
See, I just don't buy it, because I feel like Racers Island used to have a race every day, almost all times of the day. So how did you not find yourself in a Racers Island race?
Oh, there we go. Candy's joined our voice channel, so she can now hear us live.
Good.
And And via chat, her first response, she said she had a weird work schedule at the time, just never seemed to match up. Also, she continues, didn't feel like spending 1,000 linden on every single car. Yes, I remember when I first joined in November 2019. It was the first racing I did was with Mango at Nation Spacewide, so not nationwide, but Nationwide Racing Association, I think it was called, with Mango, who was running that. And then very, very shortly after Racers Island, when he took that over. And I recall, I might have noticed before when I was sim hopping years prior, but everything at Racers Island cost a fortune. So I never got anything there. It is cool as racing can be, and as much as selling vehicles can certainly help with paying for a sim and whatnot, I'm sure they relied on that very heavily, and I don't critique them for that, but it certainly is a bit difficult to get started when things cost that much.
I
Absolutely
mean, that was
right.
kind of the norm. Like everybody's so used to now, like they can't fathom the idea that people used to make an effort and build things, script them, and then try to sell them. But that was the norm back then, and it seemed appropriate.
Well, yeah,
You know?
again, it's like I'm not faulting them for it per se. It just in terms of Candy's point, for people who want to get involved in racing and may not have the connections to, say, have a friend or someone who wants to invest in their efforts, pay for vehicles for them, then they're kind of stuck. They just have to sit there and watch, or just not show up at all, because that kind of barrier has been set. Which, again, I'm going to repeat it for a third time. Totally fine that the people wanted to sell their vehicles. There was some controversy around that, though, at the time, because of the way that people were sourcing their vehicles. Because at the time, 2015 or so, I don't know when Mesh was introduced exactly, but it was around the mid-2010s, early mid-2010s when Mesh was introduced, and people were starting to grab assets from video games like NASCAR Racing 2003 season and R Factor, and a whole big controversy broke out in the community toward the end of that decade, where proper credit wasn't being given to the mod makers from those other games, and the people from the other games were starting to hear about this and starting to crack down on it. So selling vehicles, because I was speaking to Anthony Stewart about this recently. He said that around 2018, 2019, that's when the whole kind of the COVID of the racing community happened, where a lot of things shut down because people are getting scared of or fed up with all the controversy of selling such assets. And then from that point on, things have been more or less free to grab.
Yeah, but I think the whole purpose and actually what was the effect of people actually buying into not only I think people weren't buying into the actual vehicles, they were buying into the ability to race, and that showed that you were actually serious about racing. Like you didn't just have like random people showing up in a vehicle and trolling, I guess. But back then it was like everybody who bought a vehicle was serious about racing.
Yeah, and it's roughly akin to how racing works these days, in that in my case with the series that I run, championships and such, I don't give out prize money because it made some people drive a bit too crazily because they really want that money. But in comparison, the people who show up and race, they're like, because there's no monetary prize, they're racing just because they want to race it. They're not trying to get something. So like back then, when you bought the car, you were showing people that, hey, I'm here to actually race. I'm not just here to win stuff or make a profit off of anything. I suppose, I mean, they did pay out back then too. Maybe that could have said, hey, I'll get a return on my investment, but
That was kind of part of it, but there was definitely a different element, a different approach to buying a car and joining a race. I don't know if that added more, you know, it being lucrative or whatever, but I think it was definitely a different mindset than it is now. Simply
Well,
based on that, you couldn't just grab a free car and go race.
yeah, it certainly did work, at least, because, the community didn't die. Well, it nearly died, but that was for completely different reasons. But the model itself of selling vehicles was, as you said, back then, the norm. It was totally normal. So, it's just a very different environment nowadays. I personally don't sell my vehicles because just copyright galore, and it's mostly because of copyright. I don't want to get in trouble for anything. But it's also good just for accessibility.
I mean, I think both formulas work. I think it's working well so far, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well,
We can jump to the next one then.
I think we did speak a long time about Racers Island there again. So a little bit
Yeah,
more about this Midnight Thunder, because Azra did start on it, but then we redirected back to Racers Island. That was my fault. I apologize. But this car, Candy, you kind of prompted Candy to tell more about it, but I don't know if how much she's willing to try and type out here. I can say a funny story for those who didn't hear about it. When Candy was providing assets for this build, she handed me this car, fully scripted, and you can't lock the thing down. So when I rezzed it, I noticed, oh shoot, anyone could drive this thing because it's not locked. She made the funny joke of like some kind of news report. It's like, I wish I could remember the quote. I'm terrible with remembering these things, but it was something along the lines of reporting on how some random person got into an SL22B exhibit and mowed down a whole bunch of spectators, and it's just, this thing rockets off like a bullet. So just imagine you're flying along in those hot air balloons, exploring the builds, and suddenly this purple-black bullet just blasts by your view. I don't know, it's fun and hilarious. And yeah, Candy says here that the car behaves differently than it did back in that time period because the physics engine got updated. It has had a modern rebuild, to what I understand. It's not quite as fast as it used to be. She says it was insane in the previous engine as well, just not overly so.
Kind of touching back on that, paying for vehicles, people used to build cars like this. Like, they used to make the cars and then they would sell them. So if you look at this vehicle, it's all prim, it's all built. So people used to take pride in that. And
yeah, and from what I understand with My Control Speedway at the time, because they had No Control Speedway, my mistake. No Control Speedway was specifically a track, and there, somewhere in this slideshow above it is the picture of the track. But there's so many pictures in there; it's going to take forever to get to that point. The idea, and Kenny can correct me here, was that anyone could basically build their own car from the ground up, scripting it, as it says here in the text here. Candy built, scripted, and textured the car, so everything was completely bespoke. And then you just went out on, there it is, right up there, right above it, the track picture. You just went around the track as fast as you could with whatever you built, and there was a leaderboard online that was up for years, and they had various events. I'm not sure if they were limited to specific cars at times, but this is one of those vehicles from the time that was competitively built to be as fast as you possibly could go back then around the track that they were provided. Candy's typing more.
Yes, let's wait until here. Yes,
some of these pictures are from Racers Island.
Hmm?
Some of these pictures are from Racers Island.
Yeah, the slideshow above is a mix of the early 2000s of all racing, so it's not just specific to Candy's car and whatnot. So it's Racers Island, Race SL, Moto SL, FSL, No Control Speedway, all that stuff.
Candy says, yes, some of the vehicles didn't even have wheels.
Yep, it was just purely to see how fast you could go. If you right-click the car, actually, so Astra, if you right-click, you can see how she had to build the physics, the invisible prims, just to make this thing navigate where she wanted it to, how she wanted to interact with the surfaces. She adds this particular vehicle was one of the top 10, and there were hundreds of names that went up around on that board, thousands probably. I can't remember the exact number. I just know that the list was insanely long.
You know, like racing now and then racing then, it's like you kind of miss these more primitive days where, no pun intended, but they were more primitive. And they have a certain charm to it, and I think it's missing nowadays.
They do. I really miss, like, so when I started GP1, one of my fantasies, and it's not like I ever thought it was probably going to be that realistic, but was to have something akin to, we'll get to it later, but the Race SL car next to us, and then what we're looking at with Candy's car. People being able to build their own cars from the ground up, to have an identity, something that describes themselves, something that they created that they can put on display, on track, drive around, something that they made, instead of just a vehicle that was provided to you and you just simply slap a texture on it. Because having that kind of expression, that creativity, is, it can be very important to someone's engagement in a series. Let's see, what was I trying to say? It was obviously back in 2007 and whatnot. It was very easy for anyone to try and do this. Like, even if you had to just borrow scripts from someone, it was very easy to get your creative juices flowing and just build a car. But you can't do that nowadays because the standards have gotten so high, and so many people don't know the first thing about uploading mesh or working with it. When I started working on mesh in 2019, my very first vehicles that I tried to make were crap. Just I don't even want to res them and look at them. They're that bad. So, but yeah,
Well,
it's just,
I've actually thought about, because that used to be a thing. I'm sure Candy remembers in DWRL. We had a series called True, where you had a fundamental base which was invisible, but you could build your own body. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's not going to affect.
yeah, you wore it on
the
your avatar,
performance.
like what Candy's doing right there. She just put one on, one of those vehicles that you wear as you sit on a pre-provided base, and that's something that I want to do at some point. I feel like it'd be cool to do such a thing. Build an invisible base, maybe with at the very least some wheels, so that you can see where you should build around, or
And
you can
that's
adjust
that's
the wheels to fit the wheel wells. But go ahead.
that's what the True series was. Like, they gave you a base with wheels, and then you'd build around that, and that was like the extreme version of being able to express yourself with a race car.
Yeah, and we have another vehicle down the line here, about halfway, that is designed under the same philosophy. You got to wear it yourself. I think Formula SL, if I recall, Les saying actually there's one season where you guys had to do that. Not you guys in particular. I don't know if you were around for it, but I think he
Yeah,
said that there's a point where they had to wear the cars at one point.
yeah, we were doing that for a long time. Actually, the last season that they did FSL 3, you did have to build your own body, and you had
Yeah.
to pay less for it for some reason, but you know.
Well, that was just the entry fee, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Um,
I think I mentioned it here in the text for the FSL car. Candy was typing something for. Oh, she's starting to type again. So let's wait for her before we move on. But while she does that, I do want to maybe at some point hold something that can bring back that period. It wouldn't probably be like an actual official series, but just something, maybe a few races here and there. It'd be cool just to have someone or anyone build whatever they want to slap onto a
24-hour race.
Yeah.
24-hour race.
Yeah, I mean, people could do that if they want to. So she says here, there were also some issues with prims and how they interacted at points in FSL that forced the hand with running the bodies as attachments. Yeah, physics were always crazy, and still are at times. We still deal with so many issues. I'm not sure. So, because like back then, of course, you didn't have mesh, so you weren't able to build sleds that could, that had really nice rounded edges. I mean, obviously, yeah, you could have spheres.
Back then,
and
the version of mesh was called sculpts.
Yeah,
and
sculpt. Oh, that's what the car here next to us is built out of. A lot of sculpties.
So let's talk about this car then.
Oh, hang on. Candy says first, some teams used sculpties, yep, as we just mentioned, for parts of their cars, and sometimes they did cause issues. Yeah, because the physics bodies, just even with mesh and whatnot, you can see the visual of what the shape is, but what you actually interact with, those points of interaction could be a completely invisible box that could have the weirdest jagged edges, and you usually just have to phantom them or wear them just to avoid it. But yeah, anywho, let's move on to 2008 because it's kind of a good segue for that, sculpties and whatnot.
We jump now to 2008 with the FSL Season 2 Depot Racing number 14. Similar to Moto SL, Formula SL was a titan of Second Life motorsports scene straight out of its 2007 debut. Expensive entry fees, legitimate sponsorship deals galore, and a vast field full of some of the greatest and most influential drivers to ever grace the grid. The car that you see before you was custom designed, minus the base scripts, by the Depot Racing team, as was the case with every other team that raced alongside it, leading to a field full of bespoke body designs, all unique to their respective outfits. Here we can see a car that reminds us way more to an actual Formula 1 design from real life, right? Even with the suspension and the rear wings and all this stuff. And this is still prim, right?
It's a mix of prim and sculpties, because there are shapes in here that you just would never be able to make with a prim. This particular car was not, I don't think it was actually, well, it was FSL, but it wasn't in the top divisions because the name on the side, and I can't really read it because it's a bit warped. It's like Brad light something. His name doesn't show up anywhere on the online records, so it was probably a lower tier entry. But this car, as it looked, was also raced by the primary drivers in the upper divisions. Candy says you were allowed a certain number of prims in your build. Sculpties counted as double. Yeah, okay, yeah, because they were, so Sculpties more complex, but more heavy on the sim. Prim was not as moldable, so but overall, being able to use sculpties did really bring out a lot of character in the cars and a lot of really nice shapes. But being so, it would also help with keeping the overall cost of the vehicle down.
Well, just to blow everybody's mind, this car is all prim.
Is it?
Yes, it is, and that's the kind of creativity we would go through to, stretch the ideas of our imagination to make things look cool, to make things look, not prim.
Candy jokes. Torture. Yeah. I'm looking at the nose. How would you make that out of default prim? Because it's got such a unique curve. Well, okay, actually, you know what? No, I see how they could do that, I guess. Yeah. Man, the people back then were so creative. I'm very impressed. I thought it was sculpty. I was mistaken. So, very well done for whoever made this. Let's see it. Let's actually inspect it, because it should say, so, shoot, I missed the button. Inspect. It was created by, well, a mix of people. There's VJ Shoujo and Luca. I can't get the full name here. Luca Rosemer.
Also less white.
Yeah, less white. He would have had the base that this thing was built around.
If you
Candy's
look at,
wearing yet another car.
That's her FSL entry.
Oh, cool. Here, Candy, if you attach it to Avatar Center, it'll stay steady with instead of rotating with your avatar as it moves. Anthony Stewart, he rezzed out some of the old Archer Racing FSL cars for me to see, so we might have those in the build too. The future, so just a quick little note. I'm going to, hopefully, because I think I've been offered space, a permanent position for this build at Carmonics, I think. Same sim as Adam Petty Memorial Speedway, somewhere in that vicinity. And then I'll be able to flesh this out a bit more, have some more detail, and I could get some more really cool FSL cars in here. That'd be great. Yeah, Kendi says, yeah, but then my avatar will disappear. Oh, I see. So yeah. Well, not unless you click add to instead of where. But anywho, we can see the car clearly enough. Yeah, that's really cool. I really like that. But you can see just with Candy's FSL car and then compared to the to the depot car, like Formula One back in the day, you could have all these different shapes. They did have regulations as to how the cars needed to be proportioned. And there's a promotional video from 2008, before the 2008 FSL season, where you can see cars that even had what looked like a... it's difficult to describe. You'd have to look it up yourself, but it had what was basically a noseless car, but it's so weird. I don't know how to describe it. If you just look up FSL 2008 promo, anyone who's watching could just look this up on YouTube. It's easy to find, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But you could have all these different styles. It was very creative, and it was so cool to see. And that's what I wanted for GP1 at some point. I didn't find it to be realistic because you just the amount of people that are capable of doing this aren't quite as prevalent as it was back then. Maybe it can be possible again. It'd be really cool to see. I'd love to see this kind of stuff happen. We'll see though. Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
We can jump to the next one if you wish then, because
we
jump to a completely different series and kind of car, because here we are with the first D2 car of the exhibition. DTB NSX Fitzig D2 Spec 0.41. Although it might not be the earliest example of second's most popular drifting system, it is pretty close. D2, created by 8 Blinker, was and still is embraced by modern car culture, attracting and retaining enthusiasts who love to take nearly every corner sideways and put more attention, detail, and love into their vehicles than just about anyone else on the grid.
This particular vehicle didn't race in any particular series, of course. It's just a drift car. There aren't many D2 spec vehicles out there that have actually competed in full-out competitions. There have been D2 drift series championships that were held as recently as I think 2023 maybe, but I really wanted to include D2, even though this wasn't particularly a race car, even though it's got racing liveries on it on the side and such, because it's such a prominent system out there. Now there has been the recent introduction of R1, which is very similar in the sense that it's a drifting system, but it's also a grip car system. Like D2, R1 and D2, you can have, it's primarily for drifting, but it can be molded for all kinds of stuff. Grip cars and R1 though, I don't have many connections with those people right now, so maybe with a future build I could probably get an R1 car, maybe like their first R1 builds, but even then this kind of look like a modern car if anything. I wanted to get a really old D2 car, one of the earliest you could possibly get, and I couldn't reach out to 8Blinker. I tried to, but he didn't respond. But Pompf, who mainly participates in Drivers of SL grid drives and such like that, reached out to me because I reached out to drivers of SL to see if anyone had anything interesting, and Pomp was the only person in that entire group to say, "Hey, I've got something. Maybe you could use this." I said, "Oh, perfect." So here we are. It's a very old 2008 D2 car. I don't know exactly when D2 started, but it's extremely close to that period.
Yeah, D2 has been around for a long time, but its adaptation has never been really popular, and I would venture to say that it has to do a lot with the approach. People weren't, you know, wanting to drive D2 cars because, first of all, it was just vastly different from just keyboard racing, but I think the community as a whole was kind of hard to approach at first, because there was some, I don't know why, just general disdain for anybody who drove DT scripts, which are, the ones that are still utilized today. But I don't know, D2 was always a different approach to SL racing, and it had its own, and it still to this day has its own separate community, even though you have a whole group of enthusiastic racers, but we never mesh for some reason. I don't know, I don't get it.
Well, D2 as a whole, at least nowadays, it's more so, and I think this applies to pretty much its entire existence, is more so about car culture than it is motorsports. It's just because it kind of spawned from that period of the 2000s where, with the Fast and Furious movies and all that, had spawned this massive community that's focused around cars just for the love of cars themselves. And D2, I think, was the embodiment of just the love of cars, and particularly drifting. And unlike many other vehicles in SL, at least in terms of, let's just say, vehicles that people want to try and drive competitively or on the edge, these were primarily driven in mouse look. You can do it in keyboard or via keyboard. Not very easy to do with D2 at all, depending on how it's configured. Some of them can be driven just fine with keyboard, depending on how you set it up, but they're primarily mouse look driving cars. So, and you have to manually shift through all the gears, which was not unique, because Race SL's FSL cars and Moto SL bikes, you had to manually shift through all the gears too. So that concept wasn't unique at all, but that's primarily what D2 was. It was, you have to manually shift the gears, you have to manually steer with the mouse. It was a lot more hands-on.
Good.
But that's about all that I can personally say about D2.
So I got poked by Cherno telling me that he might have a 2008 car to show us. So while he tries to find it, we can jump to the next one, which is a Legend car V6 short roof. Founded in 2005, T&S Motors and Amber Raceway became a cornerstone of creativity and engineering in Second Life, known for pioneering attachable vehicles, advanced scripting systems, and immersive automotive experiences. From the early days of club vixens to the development of hot rods, superbikes, and aerial racers, their contributions pushed the limits of virtual design. Innovations included integrated update systems, modular tuning menus, and scripted mechanical animations, enhancing realism and interactivity. Supported by a passionate community and driven by resilience through personal and technical challenges, T&S Motors remains a symbol of ingenuity and enduring virtual legacy. Here we have this hot rod in particular. That's the one mentioned in the text. I think I don't recall seeing too many hot rods actually in Second Life.
Well, I mean, we could say that it's akin to a hot rod in the sense that it's got a similar body style, but Legends cars are primarily from the North American, stock car racing kind of background, they're modern day Legends cars. And I mean, this at the time when it was built in, let's see, Inspect 2008. So, well, of course, because it's in the 2008 part of the timeline. But at this period and in the early 2000s, in real life, these Legends cars, they're technically really tiny. Like in real life, they would probably be about this size that in real life that I'm standing next to, minus the wheels being so huge. These are massive wheels for what this thing is. But it's got a classic kind of 1950s, 40s style body, and that's just a styling thing nowadays. It's supposed to be a miniature version akin to the earliest days of stock car racing. It's very popular. It's very fun. That's basically what this is. So Amber Racing, TNS Motors. I got in touch with the Amber Racing owners to try and see if they'd be interested in giving me some stuff. I was primarily looking for drag racing because that's all I knew Amber Racing for really was drag racing. But turns out my beloved, or was it Beloved Little Devil? I gotta remember her name. I'm looking at someone else. Beloved Little Devil, aka Susan Dangle, has been around a long time. She was, as you could see in the text, she was making stuff for vehicles all the way back in 2005. So, making all kinds of neat and innovative stuff. This was just simply one of those things that she created and that they used to do, because they used to do way more than just drag racing.
I think primarily back in those days, we knew Amber Racing and the Amber Sim to be mostly drag racing, but they did hold Race SL events, and they had a whole road course and everything. So I remember racing there. They had a very unique road course, and so they did dabble in even Race SL stuff.
Yeah, pretty much everyone got involved in Race SL. So something that I didn't touch on when we were speaking of Race SL, FSL, Moto SL, it was the melting pot really for all communities of racing, because Racers Island got involved as a team specifically. Candy and her team and group they got involved from their community over into FSL. I think Candy had even raced for another team at first, but then she teamed up with more familiar faces. Then you had people from just other racing sims. Other communities would team up together and come to Race SL and run against each other, and that's kind of what happened with, as LB mentioned here, with Amber Racing. They got involved in FSL in some capacity. I didn't know that, which is good. It's cool to know.
Well, back then we kind of Les White was a major contributor into motorsports in Second Life, which ranged from the gate to actual car scripts, and everybody saw him as a leader in that. And when somebody who is a major contributor like Les White was, everybody heeded the call when he said, I'm gonna run a race series. So it didn't matter where you were from, where you wouldn't race, or what sims you stuck to exclusively, you would always show up if Les White said, I'm gonna hold a series and this is the vehicle, and the best of the best would always show up. And that's kind of what Les White's legacy, I think, is that he used to unite everybody, and for at least one day out of the week, and we would all race against each other. And I think if you didn't show up to Race SL, I don't know, you just weren't confident in your skill. But anybody who was confident in their ability to win would always show up to Race SL.
And Candy adds, Race SL was the show with actual sponsorship, PR. It was the place to be.
Yeah.
And that is, Race SL was my massive inspiration for what my I'll just say my community is today, because I want to just try and get this whole thing going with a more competitive aspect than just showing up on a daily basis and running some races every now and again. I wanted to have a big community with a competitive environment, with teamwork and all this sorts of stuff, and Race SL was the prime inspiration for all that. And I still don't think that despite the fact that I've outlasted Race SL's longevity, in terms of from when it started to when it ended, I still feel that Race SL was far and beyond the pinnacle what I've managed to create. So I still look up to it for a lot of stuff.
There was just a different vibe. There was different people. There was much more ambition. It was just a different, environment back then, and most of the legends that are displayed here are from Race SL. So, I guess it takes time. It has to age like wine,
Yeah, it was the right place, right time kind of environment for Race SL when SL was still fairly new and getting really popular in the pop culture. Everything was just, there was a lot of optimism, a lot of ambition, as you mentioned,
Right.
with the ambition thing. And nowadays, everyone kind of knows what's up. SL's got its own kind of stigma behind it, but I'm glad that I was able to, that we've been able, I need to say we've built something that is comparably respectable to what Race SL was. And even though it's not quite, I don't know, I'm kind of running out of words here. I'm not good at this. So
I would say it's up there for sure. Having raced in what would be considered very popular and a lucrative series, and I would say FVA will definitely be up there for years to come.
Candy adds, Race SL and GP1 are the only two series where my nerves would tense up at the start of the race. And for those listening who have no idea, GP1 is just one of the series that I created. It came before the FVA, but it's under the FVA. So FVA was created when I started adding more championships and wanted to try and keep it all under one umbrella. But GP1 came first. So that's basically, GP1 was inspired by Race SL, and that's just what it has become. So, yeah, that was the introduction to Amber Racing. There's more to come. She didn't provide any specific information about the vehicles that she gave me, other than what Sin provided with a general note card of history. So this particular car with the Legends car is just about the general history of Amber Racing. That doesn't really include drag racing. We'll get to her drag racing car later, but let's move on to the next vehicle here that was provided by, again, Brave, aka Morticia. I don't care about doxing her because she keeps making that too easy. There's nothing too specific about this car. Asdra, I'll let you read the text first, then we'll continue on.
The XXK2 Razor Biodiesel Drift Blue. This vehicle marks the supposed beginning of a once long-lasting and reoccurring championship hosted by Racers Island. The Drift Car Series was a simple turnkey drift championship that was comparable to standard multi-car races, only while taking every corner sideways.
Now, before we actually talk about this, one quick thing, 2 cars down, because I forgot to mention this. Cherno sent me a quick IM. So about the D2 cars, between the mouse look and the keyboard steering, he said, changing the steering mode is just a number in the description of the car. It's a 0 for mouse steer and 1 for keyboard. So it's really easy to go between mouse look steering or keyboard steering for D2 vehicles. It's just a matter of your preference. Okay, back to the drift car. This thing here, I've only seen videos of the more modern drift series. They had a completely different car model near the tail end of the championship. It was kind of more of an 80s small classic body. This kind of futuristic looking supercar of the period was just their first creation of that. And you can see, despite it being 2008, it looks like it's from 2005. So they kind of just hobbled this thing together. Who actually created it? Inspect. It was made by Retara or Retra Raymaker. I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. For what it is, it's a cool build. I like it. It looks cool. But yeah, it's just it's not it's so as in the description says, unlike D2, you're not trying to control the drift it's like it's not that meticulous to you just simply turn with the keyboard and it will just kick out the back end every now and again. It's just kind of a visual thing, really, what the drift car series was.
And again, a testament to what people would push the limits to. Regular DT scripts are not really meant to make your car drift, but people would find a way.
Yeah. So again, I don't really have any other information or much at all of this car. It's just something that Morticia was able to provide, something that they had in their inventory, and I like old cars, so I wanted to have it on display. And here it is. More of Racers Island exclusive material.
By today's standards, it's beautiful / ugly.
It's got character.
Yeah.
We're gonna start moving down here to the next vehicle. Candy, you're probably gonna want to start walking with us because you're now out of my chat range. I'm not going to see anything you're saying.
So, while Candy approaches us, we have another motorbike, the Grath 12R number 1 from JFO 10 Days, Archer Racing Moto SL Season 4. Moto SL and Race SL by extension was at its peak in 2008. Dozens upon dozens of competitors vying to be the best racer in Second Life. In March of 2008, JFO 10 Days became the third Moto SL champion with NSG. This Season 4 Archer Racing number 1 displayed before you. The following season, in the latter half of 2008, rival Annie Gaffler, still touted to this day as the greatest racing driver in Second Life history, secured her first Moto SL title. Her championship trophy sits beside JFO's bike. So I have been told about the history of these two from JC, that they were like the Luke Carmona and the Little Bear of 2008. What can you tell us about it?
Not Little Bear, I would say more like Eli versus Luke. Because Jaffo was widely known as the very best. He would jump in anything and win. And just to clarify, like most people always get his name wrong. We've always known him as Jaffo Tendaze, as Sukumi used to call him on their broadcast. So it's always tricky to say his name, but Jaffo.
What is the actual pronunciation? Jaffo or Jafo?
Jaffo.
Jaffo. Yeah, I figured Jaffo.
Yeah, I think that's how most of us heard his name.
But just to add real quick to the adding to the point where you said that Jaffo could just hop into anything and win. What we didn't mention is down there by the FSL car at the start of the 2008 timeline, his championship trophy is there. The very first Formula SL drivers champion was Jaffo.
I think Jaffo was like the first ever racer to be like, everybody knew he was good, and everybody knew that he was the hardest to beat. So everybody tried to aspire to be like Jaffo, I think, and and Race SL, especially when Race SL kicked off, he was the guy to beat. And the seasons where he didn't win were either when he didn't show up or Annie Guffler gave him a challenge, and I think the only real person that could beat Jaffo was Annie.
Yeah, it's all completely beyond me. I was never around for that period of time. I was in SL, obviously, but I wasn't too exposed to it. So, but I've just heard primarily from Morticia, because Morticia says it quite a lot, that Annie Well, I mean, JC, you've said it quite a lot too. That Annie's just amazing in absolutely anything she ever got into, outside of her personality. So a bit of a.
And see, like Candy says, Annie, Luke, Jafo, and Zarya are probably the Mount Rushmore of SL Racing.
Oh.
What Candy doesn't know is that I'm 3 of those people. So.
Yeah, nobody knows who JC used to be back in the day because he refuses to tell anyone. He'll troll us like crazy till the day he dies.
I gotta upkeep the mystique, but Jafo was an absolute legend. I hope his memory never fades because rest in peace, he's no longer with us. But he was the best, and he was a cool guy too, to boot.
Yeah, Anthony Stewart came walking through here recently. He saw Jaffo's trophy and bike and had put on a bit of a teary face saying his name. So he's remembered very fondly amongst the older racing community. Glad that this display is able to put those accomplishments of his out there. When I put this whole thing together, I didn't feel like I was doing a lot of people justice. I still don't think I have, because again, I had to throw this together in a week with what assets I had, what information I could get. This particular description of the bike I actually got wrong like 6 different times. I had to have Morticia and even Crippio, who was from that period, tell me, no, you're almost there, but you need to change this. So
it's impossible to encapsulate the feeling and the vibe and the memories in just one single display. So, but this layout is absolutely elegant and beautiful, and I like that it's gonna have a permanent home. And because some of these people, they put the time and effort in racing, as maybe some people will never recognize. It's the amount of effort that people put into it, but it's a nice dedication. It's a beautiful layout.
yeah, there's a lot of people these days who still discover racing in SL today saying, I had no idea that this existed. Not just this particular display, I'm just talking about racing in general. They'll come to my sim, they'll come to Racers Island, they'll see the stuff around and go, oh wow, this is here? I didn't know that. So this display, hopefully for people who've walked through, I'd love to know the reactions of the people who've just seen this before. I probably should have thought of like, hey, what'd you think of the build? Place a note card here or something. But because this, despite like YouTube, of course, you have a lot of content on YouTube for some things, but when you search racing and Second Life on YouTube, it's a bit scattered, and you really don't see a lot of stuff. You have to really dig, in some cases, to find this older content. So, and that's what I try to do with like the YouTube links. You could see the YouTube buttons across some of these descriptions where you can see races either from the period or near that period. It may not feature the vehicle in question that you see, but it'll feature vehicles either that competed alongside it or whatnot. So I just want to try and expose what has happened, because the record keeping is disappearing as the years go by. Websites are dying because like WordPress or all these old URLs that people don't want to pay for. Like the RaceSL website died in 2010, I think. And you have to look through the Wayback Machine just to find anything. And even Les White said himself that he had a folder of old results from 2006 to 2007 or 8 or something like that, and he accidentally deleted it. So all of those original records are poof. He lost those like 5 years ago. So just any way to try and preserve it. Candy here says another problem with the early eras is that YouTube wasn't the juggernaut that it is, like Treat on the next car hosted all the DWRL/car events. Yeah, YouTube was still very new. A lot of people didn't really quite know what to do, how to use it, what they wanted to put on it. A lot of content was put on other platforms. Treat TV was one of those. It's gone now. So again, more lost media in some cases. There's some DWRL on YouTube, but a lot of the older stuff's probably lost to time. unless people have it on their hard drives somewhere. Which, speaking of, good time to move on to that vehicle, I'd say. This is another one of those cars that I don't really have a lot of info on. It's just something that Morticia had. It looked really cool and old and unique, so I
Well,
wanted to include it.
I think it's a perfect segue to show that this is where people like Jaffo and Crippy and all the legendary drivers cut their teeth. It was Slascar slash DWRL, and Tree TV kind of came a couple years after Slascar and DWRL kicked off, but DWRL slash Slascar is where everybody cut their teeth because it was like kind of like local racing and local short track racing and stuff like that, like dirt and short track pavement, and that's where everybody would flock to because Sukuming and Toby Rainbow, for their efforts, used to make the best driving cars, and that's essentially where everybody learned and everybody found out who's good and who isn't, and we all kind of spiraled out to other different, more lucrative sims. But I think, in my opinion, this is where everything started.
Yeah, there's a video that I didn't include in this build. I should include it in the more permanent build of a 2006 clip of a figure 8 race where Suko Ming was involved in that. She's in the results. I think Anthony Stewart said that he was in that race as well, just under a different pseudonym, where you could back then with racing it was very finicky. So there's a particular portion of the clip where, because it's figure 8 racing, they're going to collide, two cars hit each other, T-boned in such a way that the entire sim for 2 seconds bogged down. It was just that crazy. I'm surprised that the sim didn't crash. Candy here adds Suku raced in real life as well, street stocks in Irwindale. So yeah, so I didn't know that. Cool to know. Suku taking her real life experience into the creation of her vehicles, with the handling, and as JC said, the best handling cars at the time, and they had the credentials to do it.
I very much compare the way you tune vehicles to the way that Suku and Toby used to tune their vehicles. They're very similar, and I think personally, my opinion is that they're the best kind of tuning to, the way the cars respond with turning and acceleration and speed. I think they're very finely tuned, but that was happening with, almost 20 years ago with Suku and Toby, and I really enjoy that, you're able to tune them very similarly.
Yeah, and it's all down to the fact that scripting and physics, despite the fact that they've been updated between now and way back then, they're still, for the most part, the same. So you could take the scripts from 20 years ago, throw them into a car now, and it'd probably still work about as it did back then, minus some physics screwy stuff here and there. But when it comes to mimicking realism, there's a point where it's just gonna plateau, where everything's gonna start to feel the same, and it takes. I'm not gonna try and toot my own horn here, but it takes a lot of experience in just naturally knowing how a car is supposed to flow, how the weight is supposed to transfer, to be able to translate that into a platform that is by no means meant for this kind of thing, aka Second Life. But again, as I say this every single time, Donovan, though, likes to say that these scripts are more so mine than they are his nowadays, but he's the one who, from whatever source he got them from, but also developed them off of, he's the one who gave me the scripts that I work with now, and I just simply evolved them over the years. They definitely feel a lot different than they used to when he handed them over to me. So I can say that they are mostly my scripts. But I do have a little bit of real life racing experience, mostly just in karting camps for a few years. That lasted about a week or two, a year. And then I've done years and years, decades of sim racing. So I've kind of got that mental idea just naturally of what a car should do in any given environment, any given chassis and whatnot. So similar to what Suku did with her racing experience, it's just a transfer of knowledge.
So yeah, you heard it here first, folks. Donovan, get your shit together because Luke grips are just better.
Oh, come on. This is not the appropriate place to be saying that. Don's stuff is very fun. I respect his work. It's great. He's got a lot of people who race his vehicles. So, and we just have our own different ways of going about it. He builds his stuff for durability. They work everywhere, which is great because you can run it on the mainland. You can run it on the most bumpy of surfaces, and they still drive like a race car. So it's just down to people's tastes in most cases, which creator they prefer. So okay, I think that's enough on that.
Like give credit to Donovan. He was a very instrumental part in SL racing, and he will always be.
Yeah. So we'll get to Donovan later, more specifically, but shout out to him because when I mentioned earlier about the whole quote unquote COVID of SL racing in 2018, 19, 20, when things started to die down suddenly, he was still there. That's when he got started, 2019. I won't go into too much detail because we're going to get to him later, but he was very instrumental in keeping new vehicles coming and supported, because a lot of the creators at the time were still around, but they weren't really doing anything. They just kind of left their cars to be as they were. So I'd say that's enough for this particular car. We'll move on to the next Amber Racing vehicle that they provided us.
The 55 Bel Air Gasser Taxi. For 2 decades, TNS Motors and Amber Raceway have revolutionized drag racing in Second Life, introducing the first multi-gate drag tracks, scriptless tree lights, gear tuning systems, and realistic racing with trap speed checks. They pioneered features like transbrake launches, bump boxes, glass-based ETS, and dynamic chute systems, bringing real-world accuracy to virtual racing. Amber hosted hundreds of competitive series including Top Fuel, Funny Car, Geyser, and Street Outlaw, drawing races from across the grid. Through continuous innovation and community dedication, TNS Motors set the gold standard for immersive, fair, and high-performance digital drag racing.
And I should actually modify this for the future build to speak in present tense than past tense, because they're still very well alive and kicking.
I don't have much to say about drag racing because I wasn't around for it, but I think the only thing I can add is that T and S, T is Tess. I don't know who the S is, I forget. I'm sure
It's
I remember.
Susan Dangle,
Susan.
aka my beloved little devil who created this car and runs Amber Racing. Yeah, so this is one of these vehicles that you actually had to wear. If I right-click both of these parts here, it is 278 land impact. So you do not want to race that as is. You have to wear it. Yeah, I've not personally taken part in drag racing myself, but they are a.
They've always been a presence.
long-lasting-
Yeah.
Yes, always been around, and they still are very active. They invited me to a few of their events after I spoke with them. Unfortunately, I was able to attend one of them. It was fun to watch. It's about what you'd expect at drag racing. Yeah, I will say, because a lot of people get this perception wrong, it's not just a reaction time contest. You do have to, and they do allow you to bring different scripted cars, and so I don't quite know how it all works because it's a bit open in terms of what you can do with your vehicles, not just in terms of building, but how they're scripted too. There's got to be.
I think a good bridge would be a Mango Bird Brain or Mango Darwinian, because he used to dabble in a lot of drag racing and conventional motorsports in SL, and
Mango did everything.
yeah, he drove anything with wheels and some things without. So
just to finish off my point there, drag racing is not just a simple reaction time contest where you make a car and it's just a car show and you come up to the line and wait for it to turn green and take off. You actually had to you tune the car to go fast at certain points of the run, where you can either get a really slow start but a really fast end, or a fast start but kind of a mid finish, and just kind of there was tuning involved. It was very intricate. So if people are into that kind of thing, the community, Amber Racing, and there's information here to grab, or will be when the build moves, or you can just search it up on, let's see, can you actually search it? Groups, Amber Racing. Yeah, well, kind of. That looks like more like the land group. I don't know exactly what sim they're on, but I'm sure that's not too difficult to find. Yeah, drag racing, live and well. I would like to, at some point, I was hoping to get a top fuel car, but there really isn't any room for that kind of thing unless it goes in the middle. I love top fuel vehicles. So that is Amber Racing.
So we are jumping to the next one. ELR Oval Stock. You thought that these two cars only knew how to go sideways around corners? Well, think again. Although little is known about the history of this particular vehicle, it simply goes to show the adaptability of the D2 scripting system, or at least a system derived from it, having been built once again by 8 Blinker during his more experimental years. So this is a drift car for ovals, right?
Not drifting. No, it was not built to drift. It was built to go around an oval like an oval car should. But there's a point where I ran into 8 a few years ago, and he just started throwing all of his old stuff at me for whatever reason. I can't quite remember why, but I have a ton of his old stuff, and this stock car was included in that. Huh?
That's so 8.
Yeah.
like bombing you with his stuff.
Yeah, so this is included in all of that. Let's see, Candy says 8 is quite an unsung innovator. At one point, he had a hill climb track at Springfield that had like 100 meters of elevation change. So yeah, 8 was. I personally don't know a ton about the guy. I just know what he's created.
He's definitely a very unique individual, but I think his approach to, I guess, promote his system is just off, and sometimes it would be off-putting. And I think he would kind of shit on anybody who would try to race DT scripts, because he was like, I've built something so much better, and yes, you're right. But I don't know if it was going to be universally accepted, because let's say like this stock car here, he could have done something with this. He could have organized a series, and I'm sure people would have joined it. But 8 was never like that, like never trying to organize something big. It was always somebody, taking his scripts and organizing something else.
Because yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier with what D2 basically was. It's a car culture community kind of thing where they just built cars for the love of cars, and then people just took that and did whatever they want. Like for example, modern day, Kiara Restrepo, our resident commentator at times, who would be great to have her on for this, even though she's not too experienced with the passive racing. It'd be cool to have her involved, because we always love commentating with Kara. But she currently hosts at times a series called Hyperdrive, which is drift specific, and it's obstacle course driving. It's very fun. Whenever she hosts again, check it out, take part. It's a good time. But this particular build here that I put out, I just really want to display just the adaptability, the moldability of the D2 system, and what it's not just about drifting, which for most people is just what's their main impression of it is. Which, sure, yes, it is mostly drifting, but it can be so much more than just that.
So we're
Let's move on
gonna
to
jump
this.
to the next one.
To this notorious vehicle.
RIR late model series.
So, Astrid, before you read, I do need to say that when this series started, according to Morticia or someone else, I can't remember who told me, this series RIR wasn't actually quite that big yet. It was more so a few years down the line that it would really catch some steam. Or pick up some steam, but there is a ton of content about RIR on YouTube, because they have a whole channel and it's full of stuff from way back in the day. So yeah, now you can go ahead and read what this says.
Yeah, regarding that, when we are done with the streaming, I will collect. As you see, every stand, every car has, some of them has this YouTube link to a video. After we are done with the streaming, I will actually collect all these videos and note them in a pinned comment in the live stream, so they are also accessible once the exhibition is gone as well. So RIR late model series CTS. RAR was a titan of oval racing from the late 2000s to as recent as 2018. The car that sits before you, though wrapped in demo text, is the best obtainable example of the earliest days of the organization.
I tried reaching out to Bad Guy. He's kind of disappeared as of late. Couldn't get a hold of him, and he's got some beef, some pretty big beef with one of our fellow car creators. So I don't think I was probably going to get much from him, but I was fortunate enough to have picked up these demo cars many years ago as I was sim hopping. So this was maybe at the very least 5 years or so before I actually got started in racing. I just was running around and somehow ended up at RER, wherever these were found, and picked them up. I don't recall it, but I have them. So this would be... Yeah, go ahead.
RIR just kind of sprung from the fallout that was the ban of Greg Draymond and Cocopelli Raceway, and it was just another sim that, you know, sprouted to try to keep a community together, because there was a lot of people racing at Cocopelli, and even though they didn't really attract many of the racers there, they created their own community, and you know, they had their own unique group of racers, and RAR got a lot of critique for their builds, because many people speculated that they were just carbon copies of Greg Draymond's vehicles, and which I guess was justified a bit. So Bad Guy Boozehound kind of accrued a very negative opinion about himself for doing so, but either way, the way he tuned his cars were also really fun to drive. Like, the scripts he put in his cars, to me, in my opinion, which I've driven on many cars, are still very valid and very fun to drive. And I actually, looking at this car, I miss driving it because it was very unique.
And those scripts are still alive to some capacity with Renegade Racing Association. I did reach out to them as well. Renegade. They were going to give me some stuff, but they've been caught up in all kinds of development in real life that unfortunately they couldn't provide any content for the build. But their cars still use what I highly assume to be derived from RIR because it's got the same hover text format and they drive very similarly. You know, like when you hit the brakes in these RIR cars, they every time you hit the brakes, they go, they screech
Yeah.
every time. And that part I find a bit annoying, but it really identifies an RIR when you hear it.
Yeah. I don't know, it's because maybe the tracks that they used to race at weren't, you know, at first they weren't massive tracks. They were very short track based, and but it was a good environment for what it was when it existed back then.
Yeah, they really latched onto the whole NASCAR identity, really trying to become SL's version of that, which I know we had other versions of NASCAR like oval racing in SL prior to that, but they really tried to embrace the embodiment of American stock car racing.
Right. Yeah, they must have violated so much intellectual property here in Second Life, putting NASCAR and every related logo on anything. But
yeah, if you zoom into the cockpit of this thing, you can see the logo just kind of barely cut off by the steering arm. But yeah, Evely, she just attached a modern Renegade Racing Association car to her that you can see with the hover text. That is RIR scripting indeed. But that's what they currently use as a stock car. They have RRA used to race like actual stock car bodies, but they've transitioned to using kind of these GT Genettas for their oval racing. So we have one of the. Go ahead. Shout out.
So shout out to Evely, our most recent and current FEA champion.
Yes.
We'll go over that later. There's a stand for that.
So yeah, this is example of the earliest of, not the earliest, because there are certainly older. I think RIR's very first vehicles were trucks, actually, the stock trucks. But this is right next to it. So this is one of their earliest examples, and then we move on to one of their more modern examples that I recall driving around a fair bit when I was sim hopping back in the day. So go ahead, Asdria.
RIR, Sprint Cup. As years tick by and as creators learn more, their creations evolve. The next generation of RIR stock featured an expertly sculpted body reminiscent of its real-life inspiration. This particular configuration features the 2010 rear spoiler, but it is still predominantly a 2009 build.
Yeah, so in regards to the wing, you know how my current stock cars, they have that rear wing on them? That's basically what this car was built for. So this car was built during the years where IRL, in real life, the actual NASCAR stock cars had that big rear wing sticking up out the back. So this was a modern build of that period, and they did a good job with it at the time, because it was just what I assume is Sculpties, because you know how Sculpties can look a bit jank around the seams. That's what's kind of going on here, but it's got a fully modeled engine, which they love their detail, that's for sure.
This actually looks like an ARCA car with that crazy exaggerated splitter.
Oh yeah, okay. So the nose they also updated from 2009 to 2010. So their first version of this car, so again, it had the big rear wing, and then it had the initial Car of Tomorrow front splitter that had like the what would you call those? Those, I'm just gonna say bars, little bars on the nose that just regulated how high or low the splitter was. Just a design element. So they smoothed it out. This is the 2010 version, but I placed it in 2009 because the whole car is predominantly a 2009 build. I didn't have any textures for this thing because, again, this is just one of those demo cars. I don't have templates, so it's just white. But that being said, all the paints for these cars had real-life logos all over them, so...
And you can tell it's an R car because they put 20s on it. 20-inch rims.
Oh. Well, that's right. I didn't realize the rims were so huge. But at least the wheels didn't have IP on them. Good beer. I need to do that more often with my tires, just have a fake brand on them. So yeah, that was RIR. That's they kind of I don't know when they stopped racing exactly. I forget. I think it was like 2015 or something like that.
I don't think I was actually around for their demise, but they had a good run for sure.
Yeah, again, their whole pretty much just about their entire history is on YouTube via the. You can easily find it r.i.r. Second Life Racing if you just want to search it up that way. They have a whole channel. Candy says the trademark copyright thing at one point was so berserk that SL actually restricted use of SL in World. Thus, Slascar became DWRL. Les's group got shortened by force from Race, or to Race, and Moto. Because, yeah, it used to be known as Race SL, Moto SL, Formula SL. And you know how groups were not allowed to change the names of groups under any means necessary? And even Second Life won't even, take tickets to change group names. They just flat out will not allow it. For whatever reason, they were so strict back then that they went ahead and took matters in their own hands and said, nope, you are not using that. We're changing your group. So, who wants to run a group that's just called Race? That was about the time when Les was giving up anyway. So Tony says,
around that time for sure. I kind of remember that whole ordeal when Second Life was, feeling very authoritarian, and the letters S and L couldn't be in your group name for some fucking reason.
And they still have it to this day where you're not technically allowed to use their logo for any kind of promotional capacity, or like if I wanted to put the Second Life logo on the stock cars as like a contingency sponsor, that's a no-go. I'm not technically supposed to do that. We weren't even supposed to use the SL. I don't think we were even supposed to technically use the SL logos for our SL22B builds.
Sounds about right.
But yeah, sorry, I kind of interrupted you there. Candy says just use Invu as a sponsor.
Brilliant idea.
Yorkie in the YouTube chat says there was one group that famously got its name force changed to Canal Lovers. I will leave you to speculate. Oh, poor people. Oh man. Okay, so were you actually trying to say something about something, JC, or is your point kind of null at this?
Well, we reached the echelon of Second Life Racing right here with Moto SL.
Okay, let's read the text first. Grath 12R, number 18 from Saria Falconer, Moto SL Season 5 winner. 2010 marked the final season of Moto SL, leaving behind a lasting legacy that spanned 4 years. The center bike before you belongs to Saria Falconer, Season 5 champion, accompanied by 2 competitor bikes belonging to Brave Ashbourne, right, representing Racers Island, and Motorato Ware, left, who drove for Biker Sites.
The Biker Sites is a website that is still around, but they recently, within the last 2 years, got rid of all of their Race SL information. That is where Les partnered with Biker Sites to host all of the race results and historical records online. But now, unfortunately, that's gone. It might be possible to find it via the Wayback Machine if you know the right URLs. I just recall maybe 3 years ago when I was talking with Les about this kind of stuff. I said I was Googling and found all the Race SL or Moto SL results on biker sites and shared the link with him. It was like, oh, that's still around. So, but it's gone now. Candy says parts of it are archived, mostly older stuff. Okay, so yeah, some of it's probably still there. I tried looking for it recently on biker sites and I couldn't find anything because it's one of those really older websites. It's difficult to navigate. So season 5 Moto SL. I think, if I recall, because it's been a bit since I put this all together, I think this was the final season of Moto SL and therefore Race SL in general, because it kind of, once Moto SL was gone, the whole thing was gone too. 2010 was the last year for all of this. And weirdly, and I'm going to bring Formula SL into this as well. So let's see if I can formulate this correctly. So 2007, there's a lot of Formula SL footage in 2007 on YouTube, but there's no Moto SL footage. But then you go into 2008, and there's no Formula SL footage in 2008, minus the promotional video, but there's a ton of Moto SL footage on YouTube for 2008. 2009 and 2010, nothing. I haven't found a single thing. There might be pictures and stuff, but I'm not familiar with any videos of 2009 or 2010 Moto SL.
There were videos, but I don't think they ever got uploaded properly, like on YouTube or whatever, to be archived. But Formula FSL 3 and or fairly well documented. It's just they didn't survive. Being, whoever used to record them used to do a really great job too about capturing all the action on the track. But as far as Moto SL, the final season, it's there's no like actual many videos of it, but
and we do have a blog from Crippy O that still exists. I don't know how long she kept up with that, when she stopped, but it's full of so much information because it was basically her diary, her public diary of from the time she started racing to when she stopped. And it embodies that whole period of the latter years, the mid to latter years of Race SL. So like I think it stopped in late 09 or something like that. I don't know, but there's a ton of stuff to look back on if you ever find it.
And you should also put another bike with Crippy's livery, because she was very much a contender every season, especially the last one.
Yeah, I didn't. So yeah, like I said with earlier, there are some bikes that were given to me from Les that I can't put out, like the Pontiac bike. Everything else, I was able to put out. These bikes, some of these actually, are from Morticia. She rezzed them out and then changed livery because some of these bikes were preloaded with stuff. Because we were trying to find bikes that matched up with the trophies, and this is the best that we could do. She didn't have anything that had Crippy's liveries. But we do have the Archer Jaffo bike over there, which she raced for Archer, so that's effectively the same thing. Candy says it was a title fight until the penultimate race between Crippy and Zarya. Yeah, I forget, because Crippy was here actually looking over this stuff with us, and she told us some stories of the time, and particularly she completely forgot about a whole bunch of stuff. 'Cause I even showed her the link of her blog, because I was telling her I want to reference your blog for some stuff, and I showed the link. It's like, oh my gosh, I forgot that this even existed, and she was reading through it for a while, going like, wow. So kind of a blast in the past for her.
I mean, she did really good blog posts.
I tried doing blog posts for the first years of Grand Prix 1 and all that, and I don't know how she did it. Well, okay. I forgot that I told her that, unlike her, she wasn't running an entire championship and group and all that stuff, so I was a bit too busy to be both a organizer and a reporter.
Yeah, she mostly documented her ventures in racing.
Yeah. Candy's typing more information here.
But
No,
see.
hang on. She goes, I'm gonna see if I can read this correct. So I won filling in for some slacker named Downsha Foxdale, took enough points off for Zarya to clinch. Zarya went on to win the final race. Oh, so it's your fault.
Wait, what? I think the history is a little bit skewed there, but I am not Doucho Foxdale, for the record. Just keep painting me up as a champion, like Zarya Falconer or something. I'd rather be that.
We'll get to you eventually. Because your car's later down the line. Well, this.
And for the record, for the record, that last race, you know who won it? Jaffo Tendazi.
Oh. The perfect bookend, really, to the legacy of Race SL, which is where we have to end. No more mentions of Race SL in terms of display, because at 2010, they died off. Everything that was built up started in 2006. 2010 was the end after 5 seasons of Moto SL, and I can't remember how many seasons of FSL, but a lasting legacy that is a massive inspiration for me, and was for many other people as well, including Eli Bennett, who tried to revive MotoGP racing of sorts, but he had to disappear. So that never happened. I really want those bikes he was working on.
So let's go 3 years later to Uni Racers Island Stock Car. American stock car racing, a popular niche of motorsports that was being hosted just about everywhere you went in Second Life. Racers Island was no stranger to it by the time 2013 rolled around, having hosted such events since its earliest years. You might have noticed the Uni logo earlier on the 2008 Moto SL bike. This vehicle is the earliest obtainable example you will see of Yuriko Nishi's many contributions to Racers Island.
This is a vehicle that I do not have in my possession, primarily because I didn't want to pay for it, but also it wasn't being actively raced at the time that I showed up anyway. This was specifically donated by Christina Kurtau, who is the owner-operator of Spirit Racing League. So many thanks to her for providing that, because all I had were the 2 cars to its left in terms of Yuriko Nishi builds. But the Stock Car League, I don't know much about it. I just know that it was Racers Island specific. It didn't travel anywhere else to my knowledge. It was just for Racers Island. That's about all I can say.
To Yuriko Nishi's credit, she scripts cars to handle and drive very differently and very uniquely to herself, unlike anybody that I've anybody else's vehicles. So Yuri's cars are very unique within themselves, and they're great.
Yep, lots of praise has been thrown their way over the years, and a lot of her vehicles still hold up to this day. Most recently raced, actually, last weekend. But officially raced in terms of a championship series was, Morticia says October 2019, but I'm pretty sure that I have videos of early 2020 racing those, because Mango was running sprint cars for a bit. And yes, we had to pay for them. So he did have a Reser, I think, but if you wanted to have your own custom livery to be able to paint them, you had to buy the car.
Yes.
So, speaking of, I think it's a good time to move on to the next vehicle, which is also created by Uni, or Yuriko.
Uni Sprint Car. Still to this day, the Uni Sprint Car is a popular vehicle amongst many who remember it fondly. Through 10 years old, its build quality and handling remains relevant to modern day standards, and was still in official use as recently as mid-2020s. If I'm not wrong, this is the car that we raced last week at the 18th anniversary of Races Island, right?
That is correct. And I'm gonna kind of... So, during that last stream, I did say, a bit bluntly, unfiltered, that I'm not a fan of these cars. However, that's a personal point. A lot of people really love these cars, and I do not fault them at all for liking them. I do think that they handle very well. Just that my preference of racing doesn't necessarily fit the way they drive. But that doesn't detract anything from what the car is, what it's accomplished, and how popular it is, and all that stuff. It was a fun race. And these cars still, like I said in the text, hold up to this day. They still are... Like many people have, like Donovan has tried creating his own sprint cars. They're RIR sprint cars, but this is still the, what I guess you could say, the top dog.
Well, these cars are very arcadey for sure, but they're good for what their aim is, I guess. To try to drive as
they're extremely easy to pick up and get into. It doesn't take much to figure out what to do with these things. They're very easy to drive.
And so, it lets people be competitive out of the box. So, I think it has a good amount of drift as a dirt kart would have, and I think it's having driven other iterations of dirt cars, from Suku's to Donovan's latest version of dirt cars, is a very fun medium, which you can just jump in and do immediately well. And ultimately, that's what it's all about, just having a fun vehicle to drive, easy to drive, and be competitive.
Yep. This is the vehicle where, so when I started racing in 2019, it was, let's see, Mango. I don't think that he had taken over Racers Island quite yet, but I had been brought over to RI because it might have been in that transition phase. And I recall the very first time I drove these things, it was one of the first races I had taken part in. Not the first, but one of the first. And it was up against, it had Eddie Matheson. I don't know if I pronounced that last name correctly, but he was the current and transitioning out of, but longtime owner of Racers Island at the time, along with Kim Link, I think her name is.
Eddie Tomorrow.
Yeah, so I got to race against them. I think that was their very, at least for Eddie, it wasn't Kim's last race, but I think it was Eddie's very last competitive race at Racers Island, and I got to take part in that one. Ended up winning the race out of shock. It's the only time I ever won a race in these sprint cars until last weekend, so a 5-year gap in between victories in these sprint cars. I liked the cars then. I'm not saying I hate them, but they did kind of fit certain tracks. They didn't necessarily work everywhere per se.
They're just not your cup of tea, basically.
They're not really my cup of tea, but they worked really well. They work really well at Palatine. And speaking of Palatine, Anthony Stewart, who I think is the one who built that track, just fixed it, so it now works with any vehicle. No more bumps.
What?
Anthony Stewart, Palatine. The double oval, dirt oval that we just raced at last week.
What the hell race is there? Who wants to race there?
Well, I mean, it's fixed now, as of yesterday, so anything can race there.
I didn't know anything was wrong with it.
Well, you know how at the start-finish line, and like my cars or Donovan's cars, once you hit the start-finish line, the car would get launched up into the air? We just rarely ever use the track, so you don't have much memory of it. It's okay. So,
moving on.
Yeah, that's the sprint car. I've yet again made unfiltered comments. I apologize if anyone gets offended by them.
Moving on now to Juni Races Island Legends. Take a moment to glance back at the 2008 Legends car and then look back this way. Don't you just love how far we've come?
So this is again one of the earliest vehicles that I raced at Racers Island when Mango was taking over. He had a series with these things. We mainly raced them on road courses. They weren't ovals vehicles that I understood from. Fun little things to drive. I liked them. But yeah, you can see a modern Legends car build, and then if you zoom over to 2008, you can see Amber's version from back in the day with what technology allowed back then. So compared to then and now, very cool example of the visual advancements of racing in Second Life, just with what we can visually portray.
I mean,
don't
these
have much-
cars. Yeah, these cars were, I guess, being raced when I was just completely tuned out of Second Life racing. So
Yeah, you hadn't returned just yet. It was basically just me, Donovan, Mango, and a smattering of others.
Just taking some shots of the car.
And Morticia too. Morticia was always there.
Morticia is always there. Yes.
I still remember the second race that I ever took part in, officially, like competitively. So there's the first race I ever took part in, which was at Nationwide Racing Association in a Donovan stock car, and I was in the wrong version, so I was getting damaged so much faster than everyone else, and I kept pitting. So that race was a complete blunder. But the second race after that, we were in those semi-truck racing, those racing semi-trucks at Simba's build, and I won the race, but I was immediately speculated privately between Mango and Morticia that I might have been Biller, because after that too I was racing in black and orange cars.
Oh, damn.
Yeah,
You don't want to be Biller's alt.
it was. I didn't know that that was the case until a few years ago. I was told that they were speculating I was him.
Shout out to Biller Longfall, who's still relevant.
He'll be mentioned later down the line. I got one of his cars here too.
So let's
I'm
jump
sure.
to Spirit Racing League.
Yeah.
Alright,
Yeah,
Spirit
let's be-
Racing League.
let's-
Founded,
Let's begin the downfall of SL Racing.
Oh, come on.
founded by Cristina Curtao with a vision of creating an open, welcoming environment for all drivers, the Spirit Racing League grew from humble beginnings, no cars, no sim, just an idea, into one of Second Life's largest and most inclusive racing communities, with early support from Tamara Stevens, Willis Bailey, and Biller Longfall. SRL found its first home, gained momentum, and attracted drivers from all backgrounds. As the league expanded, members like Christy Charon, Taylor Airalo, and Svenjak Rhodes brought training programs, custom tracks, and new energy. Over time, SRL added more sims, more cars, and more races, all while maintaining a commitment to respect, sportsmanship, and shared success. Today, SRL stands as a testament to collaboration, community spirit, and the power of a simple idea to bring people together.
Spirit Racing League is the first entity in this lineup that is currently still in existence outside of Racers On. I'm speaking just in terms of racing groups now. Still kicking alive, and well, it's got as much, the most in, trying to find my words here, I apologize everyone. It's got the most involvement that it probably ever has nowadays, with field turnouts that can near or even reach 20 people per race. So Cristina Curtao, she was, so again, back here with this Unicar, this is her donation, this is her car. So she was racing with Racers Island for a while, and with some other racing league. It was something that Willis Bailey had made. I don't know if it was a separate series or not, but she wanted to create something else. I forget her reasonings because I think her other note card that she provided to me expanded on that, but I had to condense it down. When SRL first started, this vehicle here was created by Willis Bailey, and it was their very first SRL car. And there's footage on YouTube via her channel. I think it's Spirit Racing League / Go Fast or something like that. Of these early and the car was called Sledgehammer, so it was these early Sledgehammer races. They were a bit chaotic, to say the least. Cars flying left and right, and they were also extremely fast stock cars, so they were flying around the tracks at breakneck speeds on what were prim builds of ovals, and they still race on some of these prim builds today. But they also do IndyCar. Their primary-secondary series. Primary-secondary, that's not a good combination. So they have, so on Saturdays they run stock cars, and on Mondays they run Indy cars. And they've been running Indy cars for about as long as they have the stocks as well. Christy Sharon, who is the owner, or at least the creator of Drivers of SL, and also is a massive figure in, what is exactly they're named as the Second Life Cheerleading Squad, SLCS. SRL was racing on the SLCS sim for years and years and years, so it was a very close collaboration because Christina Kurtau, Taylor Arillo, Becky Aker, they're all SLCS cheerleaders and still are to this day. So it's always been a very close collaboration. Unfortunately, in either late 2020 or early 2021, they're starting to have issues with that sim in particular because it was getting a bit too laggy for them, and they're running out of space to res tracks. People kept teleporting in and out because it wasn't a locked sim. It's not a racing sim, it's a cheerleading sim. They just happened to race on it. So Donovan stepped in. I don't know all the details because I was kind of just focused on running my stuff that I had begun hosting at Racers Island under Mango's management. But he got together with them and started providing them with cars, who had previously, or at least SRL had previously been getting cars from Willis Bailey and then Biller Longfall for a bit. Donovan stepped in, helped out, and then I offered them my sim to race on. So that LC Racing Circuits for a good while became their permanent home. And they'd occasionally come to Racers Island to drive. I think they were originally probably going to move over to Racers Island. I can't remember what stopped it. I think it was the turmoil at the point where they were Mango was trying to figure out if the sim was going to live or die and if he could sell it off. So I said, hey, well, my sim's doing pretty well right now. How about you guys come over to here? I got some space. I'll give you a platform to res. You can use my tracks too if you want to. And that's how that worked out. Current day, they have their own sim. It's owned by Kathleen Spitfire. It's called Spitfire Racing. And they still travel to different sims. They still use my tracks. They still use Racers Island's tracks. But they have their own kind of more permanent home now, just for themselves. It's really cool to see that they're still able to, 10 years on, because they started in 2015. It has now been a decade of Spirit Racing League. I don't know the exact date of when it started. But
I think I have a very valid question, which is, has anybody ever seen anybody from SRL actually cheerleading?
Yeah, I've not seen it live in person, but you have the team pictures, and I think there are some photos of events that they were a part of.
I think it's just like a very major front for something more nefarious.
No, I've seen the actual SLCS squad doing actual events before. Again, I've not been there in person, but I've seen some videos and pictures of venues they've been to, like the SS Galaxy, I think it is, that gigantic cruise ship that's multiple sims long. Yeah, Candy says they've done various events, even Fantasy Fair at times. Cherno says at Second Life birthday last year, they did the opener show. So yeah, no, SLCS is very, very active. I don't know how involved Christina, Taylor, and Becky are at the current time. I know that they're still involved. They do stuff. I just don't know how often they get involved with it.
As long as
Sure,
I
also
don't
says-
see Taylor Arella and Pom Poms, I'm going to be very speculative.
Well, do you know? You remember maybe that one of their prim ovals is themed around a football field and the SLCS cheerleaders, and there's the lining the walls are PNG images, full body images of a lot of the cheerleaders, and Christina's there, Taylor's there, Becky's there, and Svenja, who used to race with SRL for a long time, dominated everything they ran. So they're all there.
Guess who just sent me something?
Oh,
Leslie White.
oh, is it what? Is he watching the stream or something? What's going on? What did he send you?
Nothing related to this, but
Just coincidence then.
I would
I do-
teleport him, but I don't think he would want to elaborate on the history of SL racing because, much like many league directors, all they deal with is drama.
He's also, I mean, he's not in the Discord, and if he were to open the stream, he'd have a massive stream delay trying to communicate with us. So he'd probably just stay silent the whole time. He's been to the build. He came here and took a look at it. Said it was really cool to see. So, and I think he's provided a fair amount. He gave me a lot of stuff, a bit more than I was expecting, honestly. So, I would have liked to have
And then-
actually had a few more FSL cars, but I ran out of space. Anyway.
Well, this bike, go ahead.
Another
Yeah.
uni
Give us an introduction.
vehicle.
Hang on. Candy's typing something might be related to for the permanent. Candy says for the permanent build you need a race gate so people can time themselves walking around it. Oh, that's a good idea. I like that. There's something else I wanted to add real quick too. Shoot, what was it? Hang on. Dang it, it's disappearing from my head. Okay, never mind. Well, I'll remember it and then I'll circle back. So move on to the next item. Oh, right, I remember. Okay, so Les White, he did just recently update because this recent guy who showed up to the racing community, mainly racing with SRL. His name is Joe30. Apparently, he's really good friends with Les. He has some of the old bikes from back then. He was racing him around at some point, but he's gotten involved in racing recently. And he got Les to update the timing board, our timing and scoring board, to 20 drivers. So
Wait,
now we don't. So you know the timing and scoring board that shows the positions from 1 through 15?
No.
What? Dude, you look at it all the time. Anywho, a lot of people know about it. We now have a version that has 20 drivers, so it's going to be good to see pretty much everyone on the timing board. Okay.
Get to see who's sucking really bad.
Okay, we can move on now.
So let's move to the speedway bike. Looks can be deceiving when taking a first glance at this bike, but did you know that there are motorcycles especially built to go oval racing? Flat track racing to be more specific. Experts claim this bike to be the first of its kind in Second Life when it was released. It kinda looks like a road bike, but
Yeah, it's so. Ezra, have you ever? Bless you. Have you ever seen or heard of flat track racing?
no.
So, but you are, so it's oval racing on primarily dirt, but you are drifting sideways around the oval on a bike, and you are leaning really far the entire time. So it's an oval racing dirt bike, really. Let's see.
It looks really cool. Just trust us.
Yeah, again, this is one of those things that I don't have a whole lot of information on. It's just neat to have. Whose is this? Braves. So Morticia provided this bike. There was another bike, circle bike, that was created. I think I don't remember who made it. She's not around in the community anymore. I forget her name, but we had another circle bike or flat track bike that Mango used for few championships or just one championship season of just racing around a dirt oval. I took part in those, but I never raced this bike in particular. Candy says, while resing some old stuff the other day, I found a video of a couple of the people here today racing in a race 6 years ago on this bike from 10 years ago. On this bike from 10 years ago on an old Prim oval from 15 years ago. So wait, hang on. I need to read that again because I butchered it a bit. So while resing some old stuff the other day, I found a video of a couple of people here today racing in a race 6 years ago on this bike from 10 years ago on an old Prim oval from 15 years ago. So just kind of a collapsed accordion timeline of cars, tracks, and people at the same venue at the same time. So why don't you provide the link too? Hang on. I will... actually, I was going to share it in the live stream chat, but YouTube doesn't tend to like links.
Yeah, you can try.
Okay. Yep.
I shouldn't have any filter in theory.
Cherno says Speedway is very big in Poland. The ice version is very famous in Sweden and Norway. So, same thing with these bikes, just racing in circles on ice.
Yeah,
So,
do you wanna read the YouTube comments?
I'm reading them, because Brave Ashburn, as known as Morticia Villota, is saying Jesus Crisp is Annie Gaffler, Emmy Blueberry is Dol Kabuki, and Cali Finesmith is Greg Drayman. Is this real? Is this not?
No.
What can you say?
JC will say everything is real, so don't listen to what he says.
I can tell you,
One
Cali
of them
and Greg
is right. Guess which one?
Yes, perfect answer.
Okay, well, that's about I can say about the bike. It's just a really cool addition, I'd say, because it was, again, first of its kind, to my knowledge. Excuse me.
I raced this a few times and I won once, but they're not my cup of tea, so I won't boast them.
So, the bikes to you are what the sprint cars are to me.
This particular bike, I mean, I love Les White's bikes, but this one, maybe because I was racing against Annie, and Annie is such a buzzkill. But it was they're actually fun if you get the hang of them.
Yeah, I could say the same thing about the sprint cars. It just depends on the environment and just all sorts of different factors. I just didn't have a lot of good experiences with the sprints. So, okay, that was the last of the Uni-created and Racers Island specific vehicles. We now move on to the
2018
start. Yep, go ahead.
with Mostly Cars' first creation. Many residents nowadays are becoming increasingly familiar with the automotive brand Mostly Cars, a developer of both racing machines and casual use vehicles. In 2018, Donovan Michalski set out to create his very first vehicle, an open-wheel racer seen sitting before you. With Mostly Cars still plenty active, his creations are primarily used by Spirit Racing League through all of their divisions and have previously seen much of their action at Racers Island.
So Donovan Mikulski is a far better scripter than I could ever hope to be right now. He is extremely innovative, has created a ton of, I could say, very popular vehicles, especially as of late the SST, or Stadium Super Truck, or as we also like to call them, thanks to Emmy Blueberry, Rampy Trucks. So, he's got all kinds of stuff, and his vehicles are widely they were used on multiple sims at some point where he had to or wanted to, but kind of dug himself into a hole at some cases where he would have special versions of his stock cars and Indy cars for different leagues that wanted to use them. It did kind of overwork him a bit, I think. But he's now just kind of mainly got them condensed down to Spirit Racing League. full 100% support behind those vehicles. He updates them very regularly whenever something is needed. They can be a lot of fun to drive. They're very dynamic. He's created some cars that have some extremely detailed parameters that could be affected by the actual weather conditions in Second Life. If you believed that that was a thing, well, it actually is. There's wind, there's temperature. Apparently there's actually temperature in Second Life. It's just no one ever really utilizes it. So, but he had to actually take those features out because it was getting a little bit too complicated for the casual SRL user, because people who are very knowledgeable of that stuff, with that stuff and how to utilize it, were just constantly running off with competition. It was just a bit too complicated for what SRL wanted, so we had to tone it back, which is unfortunate. It's cool to see innovation crop up, but then sad to see it get toned back down a bit. I've had to do that a few times with some of my cars because I think they get a little bit too complex for what people really want to put up with.
I think that's Donovan's legacy. Is like he's very innovative. He introduces things that add to the immersion of SL racing. But I think my favorite of his cars are actually the Rampy trucks, and I think the Rampy trucks are derived from another car that he did, like that road car. I always forget what it's called, the SS
SR3.
SR3, yes. That's one of my favorite cars to drive in a Second Life, and I think the Rampy trucks are derived from that. And you know, I don't want to boast about his IndyCar because I absolutely detest this IndyCar. It doesn't it doesn't drive to my liking, but I think that's just Donovan's legacy, which is a massive contribution to Second Life racing and giving people the tools to, tune cars the way that they want and introduce features that they want. And I think Luke is the best tuner, but yeah, I think that's what Donovan's legacy is.
And yeah, he's got tons of. I don't know. I've reached out to him a lot over the years for questions on how to do certain things, and he's been always happy to help out. And he's been a massive help with some of the cars, like the very first GT Super Endurance cars, helping me get the some certain systems working in that, like the drive time system, trying to automatically track how long someone is in the car for. He made that system, so he does a lot of the more niche stuff that I don't know how to deal with. I'm more of a script modifier than I am a script creator. But I'm going to divert here for a second because we have Tony leaving comments here in the chat that are very valid, and I'm going to read this first before I leave my comments on it. He says there's a lot missing here. There's no mention of Gearhead Car Club or Coal Cracker Racing, where he got his start. He equals Tony, where he got his start and met many friends like Cherno, Tunga, Candy, Breezy, Motoko, Shandira, Polo, Eddie, Donovan, and others. Because Donovan also helped provide cars for them too. And yes, I completely forgot, and I sincerely apologize about missing everything to do with Coal Cracker Racing, because they were a sim that I worked very closely with the first few seasons of Grand Prix 1. We raced at some of their tracks. I worked closely with Motoko and Shandira. Breezy was actually one of my team's drivers for a bit, and I've raced there a number of times. And that was a very active racing sim that was around for a while. And sadly, Shandira had to give it up due to financial reasons. I think she's in Spain, something like that, somewhere in Europe, and energy prices rose too high for her to keep up with the costs of the sim, and it had to go away. But Cherno and Tony, Candy too, because that's where Candy was for most of the time before she started helping out a lot with Racers Island, was helping Cherno and Tony run races over at Coal Cracker. Cherno adds Yeah, but Donovan helped developing them. Yes, with the cars. Oh, wait, sorry. So Gearhead Car Club had their own cars too. Tony says, Cherno says, yes, but Donovan helped developing them. Callie, oh, Callie's here, hello. She adds...
Nobody cares what Callie has to say. But
Oh, God.
what the point is that we can't
Dude.
catalog.
Okay, say what you want, but I'm going to circle back to what she said. Go ahead.
No, I'm just kidding. Just read a comment.
Okay. Callie says, only get a few weeks to throw these exhibits together. Easy to forget. The permanent exhibit can always be expanded on. Yes, exactly. So, yeah, because I did remember Coalcracker and Gearhead Car Club about a week after the exhibit came to be. I thought, oh shoot, doggone it. But then when I heard that I could build a permanent version of this, I thought, okay, perfect. I can now include all, because again, I threw this all together in a week. I tried to reach out to a bunch of people. Some people I just didn't think of, it didn't cross my mind. So again, I apologize about that. But there will be mentions of as much stuff as I can get in here in the future. Candy says, also, other sims like Alpinium who are wondering where everyone is for their 200 lap race going on right now. Yeah, well, to be fair, all due respect, we did schedule this thing first, and we tried to move it up earlier, but we didn't. I don't think we expected it to last this long.
I think there was. I have to say there. I think it was a lack of communication here, because the situation is here. At a certain point in the past, Luke suggested to Arno to host the 200 laps of Moulin Rouge on the 20th or 27th July. The thing is that before it was announced, or before it was decided, better said, we announced then the live stream on this Sunday 20th, because it's the last day that the SL22B is going to be live, and we have no other day to properly meet and have, people around that could give us input about the exhibition, such as Luke and JC or Candy or Kali. So in the end we scheduled it for Sunday at 12. Later on, Arno scheduled the race as well for Sunday 12, so we moved the stream 2 hours earlier to try to finish the stream, because honestly we expected the stream to not last more than an hour, because we were planning to just go over the stands and that's it. But in the end it took way longer than that, and sadly it collided with the event. So yeah, it was some kind of miscommunication in the end between or lack of coordination between Arno and me. And Arno poked me about that as well. I will talk to him tomorrow, because today I'm for those that I don't know, I was the whole weekend out because of an event I'm completely wasted. So I will talk to Arno on Monday, I guess Luke as well, so we can find a proper date for the event, because of course it is of my interest and of the interest of many others to participate. So yeah, just this a little brackets to the stream, that this was lack of coordination. It was not the intention at all to lap one event with other, so we'll find a way to make the event work. So
it was a little bit of an unfortunate first come first serve basis. His event was announced a bit late, I'd say. It probably needed a bit more lead up time. But that being said,
I think Candy's comment encapsulates this event perfectly.
Yeah.
You can just, yeah.
Yes, so she says, never underestimate how long old people can talk about how things were back in the day. So I wasn't expecting so many people to show up and contribute, which is awesome. I love that we're all here and we're all talking about this and reminiscing, even though some of us have no involvement of what happened back then. But I do apologize to Arno that we ran over his scheduled event, but I do have to say it was probably a little bit lately announced. However, I do want to, in the future, try and maybe work out a way to. I don't know if he canceled it. If he's still running it, or if he's had to cancel. But I'll help him out if he's listening or hears about this, and help him try and reschedule it for another time and try to make it. Make sure that there's no interruptions, nothing that's going to overlap, so that he can get the attention it deserves. Because he's put a lot of work into trying to get that thing going. It's just he probably, in my opinion, should have announced that a bit more in advance, so that we had more time to schedule appropriately around the thing.
And we move on to everybody's favorite time, the COVID era.
The 2020 Indy Pro version 2.8 from JHRA. Founded in 2016 by Biller Longfall and operating from the largest sports center in Second Life, the Jericho Hill Racing Association once hosted the weekly auto races alongside wrestling, football, and hockey events at Jericho Hill. Drawing upon both the newest and most historic tracks crafted by some of Second Life's most renowned builders and racers, JHRA represented the collective effort of over a dozen sports innovators. Dedicated to realism, fairness, and fun, JHRA provided a competitive yet welcoming environment that honored the spirit of virtual motorsport. This particular example was raced primarily in the Spirit Racing League Indy Pro division.
So JHRA was a collective effort headed primarily by Biller, but it also had heavy involvement from Anthony Stewart, who has again recently resurfaced after his disappearance, or well, not so much disappearance, but he pretty much ended his involvement with SL Racing in end of 2018, early 2019 or so, something like that. But he's back. He was heavily involved with JHRA with making tracks, and I think Biller was mainly the one making the vehicles. They mainly did stock cars. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a hold of Biller before this was all thrown together, so I don't have any other examples. All I had was this Indy car that we raced in SRL right before Donovan's cars took over. Yeah, so this whole description that is up there on the board, it's a condensed version of what is from their website, which still exists. The way they ran their races was quite a bit different than what SRL does. Everyone's used to just running some qualifying and then getting on track and then racing for however many laps it is, and just whatever happens. In their case, they had someone would be sitting off to the side. They had a HUD and they had lights around the track, and there's footage of this somewhere online. Anthony was sharing some stuff with me. Like they'd be able to throw cautions, or more so warnings. Like they'd have flashing yellow lights, or then they'd red flag a race if something crazy happened. They'd stop it. At the time, they only had. Go ahead.
The biggest thing about that stands out about JHRA and Bill Longfall is that he used to script his cars in a way where you actually had to drive the car. Like you had to actually brake into a corner, and you had to put a lot of actual physical effort in driving his cars. And he also introduced a lot of things like lanes that just gave you more speed, like the top lane, and that was kind of to emulate a more like a realistic type of driving experience, where your momentum actually felt real, like you were on the high side and somebody was on the inside. And he was really good at it, and there was a lot of fun racing at JHRA. And that's essentially where I met Taylor, and between us three, like Biller, Taylor, and myself, we were having a lot of fun races, and it was really cool. A lot of things that he did. So JHRA has a special place in my heart, I would say.
Yeah, they were quite the active community after RIR, I'd say. 'Cause I think RIR was... It basically went Slascar, DWRL, RIR, and then JHRA. With SRL kind of mixed in there, and now it's mainly just SRL. So, in terms of the more serious oval racing, JHRA was probably the last of that breed, I'd say. Is that correct?
I would say so. That's a fair assessment. Yeah.
Yeah, because oval racing nowadays is more of a casual thing than anything. It's no one gets too serious about it in terms of rules and regulations and such.
And what's kind of interesting is that Biller back then, he very much promoted a type of environment where you're just come and have fun. You don't try to bring drama. Just come and enjoy racing, and he did it for the most part. And I think most leagues ultimately fall into that trap of drama and egos coming into play. But in the beginning, it was really actually fun. So
yeah, he has been here. He's seen the build, and he has said that in the future he'd like to provide some more JHRA vehicles to be put on display, which is what I wanted originally, trying to get a stock car at the very least. So that will be provided in the future.
No, I don't like him anymore. He's lost his mind. He's crazy now.
Oh, dude, history's history.
And then this happened.
And then this happened.
Luke Carmona Racing, the 42 from Little Bear, FBA Grand Prix 1 Season 1 champion. In 2020, a new championship was established. Grand Prix 1 marked the return of a team-based, Formula-style motor racing that was, in the eyes of the founder Luke Carmona, sorely lacking at the time, something not seen since the days of Race SL 10 years prior. The inaugural season saw 12 teams and 33 drivers take to the circuit for a 12-race calendar spanning 3 different sims. The car that sits before you was driven by the inaugural Grand Prix 1 champion Little Bear, as known as Jesus Crisp, as known as Toons the Driving Cat. GP1 has since gone on to complete a total of 76 races over 7 seasons and 6 sims, seeing 5 unique body styling updates and 27 different teams take to the circuit. This is also the season where I started racing, but not in GP1, in GPAM, which was the equivalent to GP2 nowadays.
This, originally, when I wanted to start hosting things, it wasn't supposed to be Grand Prix style racing. My initial ambition, which was far beyond my skills at the time, was multi-class endurance. So GTs and prototypes on track at the same time. I had those prototypes were the very first, not that prototype, not that car, but a different body for an LMP1 car. It was the very first car that I ever tried to upload to Second Life that actually moved too. That's all it ever was, though. It just moved. I made a series logo and everything. The original website for Grand Prix 1, if any of you remember, it used to be slecracing.com or Slec Racing. It was supposed to be the SL Endurance Championship.
That's what it stood for?
That's what it stood for, the SL Endurance Championship. I couldn't do it because I didn't know how to make it work with teams sharing cars or whatnot, because I really wanted people to share cars. But instead, when I was talking with people, I was hearing here and there that Grand Prix racing was something that would be cool to have, and I figured, hey, that actually might be a heck of a lot easier to start with because I didn't know how to make the other thing work. So, Grand Prix 1 was devised. It took me 4 months to develop. I started in July of 2020, I think, with car development, script development, getting help from Donovan to try and make these things a bit more user-friendly. I was talking with various people and groups like SRL, I think Gearhead. Yes, Gearhead. I was speaking with Gearhead because Breezy got involved from the start, and Motoco was racing with Team N or
Enya.
Enya. Enya. Yes, because of that little squiggle on top. So I got it right before you corrected me. And
So the thing that stands out about this car is that this is the car that broke Brave Ashbourne. Brave Ashbourne was so dominant, and when this series got started, it was like, okay, this is just another series Brave is gonna win, but he couldn't. And this is the car that broke Brave Ashbourne.
this is the last championship of official full-time racing that Brave, well, Morticia, because she didn't race under Brave, she raced under Morticia, that Morticia raced in full-time. She has since relegated herself to she races SRL quote-unquote full-time, but only because it's not an obligation. She will not take part in any championships that make her feel obligated to drive. Yeah, so that championship, that first season, had all sorts of people show up from places we didn't even know. So we had Pablo Bakerly, at the time it was Pablo Bakerly. He came from the sports scene of Second Life, but more so boxing and fighting and whatnot. And he was a multi-time champion in that respect. He was brought over by Andres Bakerly, who was a pal of his. They both came over and dragged in some other friends, and most of them were Colombian. I think one of them was Nicole Dallas. A lot of people are familiar with Nicole Dallas. He was brought over by them as well, so that's how he got started. They were crazy fast, some of them. They put up massive challenges for Morticia, for Eli, for Jesus here. Rapid on the track, a bit messy though, but really, really fast. And it was cool to see them here for those first few seasons that they stuck around. Jesus thinks that their involvement helped with the are a big reason why the first few seasons of GP1, particularly season 3, I think maybe, is why season 3 were the best seasons of GP1, just because of the level of competition that was there.
Yeah, I think everybody came with a lot of passion and a lot of determination, especially in Nicole Dallas's case, because she used to train night and day, but just one fucking retard put him in the wall. No fucking way, man. No fucking way.
Excuse me, I'm gonna mute for a second. I got a cough.
That's a reference to a gesture. Someone must have. I don't have that gesture actually. Someone should send it to me, because yeah, it's quite iconic by now.
Hang on, sharing in the. Because we have a visitor, Perp Derp, who is dropping in, sees what we're up to. So just saying, we're live streaming. Take a look. Yeah, so Grand Prix 1 has evolved quite a lot since its earliest days. I have occasionally driven. Oh gosh, what the heck? Hang on, what's going on here? Okay, I can't.
It was a
Gearhead
huge
Racing logo.
Gearhead stand or something, a podium maybe.
Yeah, someone put it on. I think they were trying to show it off. Yeah, so I don't really like how the first season Grand Prix 1 cars drive. I mean, they're okay to drive, but compared to what I've made nowadays, I would never want to go back to them. And also back then we had damage, which was bad. Nowadays we don't have damage on our cars anymore because it often hurt the innocent drivers trying to drive correctly than the ones who were a bit more careless or reckless.
And again with time, like those kind of features just kind of gave that era its charms, and it's it was very lucrative to have one under those conditions.
Yeah,
So
Candy says, damage just made everyone more mad. Quote, you damaged my car, you beep. So, because a lot of people were getting like 26% damage or something right at the first 2 laps of the race. And because damage affected your top speed, so once you got that much damage, you could repair it after a pit stop, but you only pit like twice a race. So you were off the pace almost immediately in some cases, and you basically had to qualify at the front or your race was nearly doomed from the get-go.
the thing is, like, when we joined these races, we all agreed to the terms. Like, we know what it is. So, yeah, somebody's gonna lose, somebody's gonna win, somebody's gonna have a better time, somebody's gonna have a shitty time, and that's just what it is.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you look back on it and you realize how crazy were we to put up with this. You are different because you like when things are difficult and punishing.
Yeah.
But things evolve naturally over time. I try to listen to the community, and or I take matters into my own hands, because not every decision I've made was necessarily popular from the get-go, but I'd say it's worked out in most cases. Sometimes I just have to take initiative and say, nope, no more damage. I'm not gonna deal with this. I don't want to put up with people screaming at each other or screaming at me. So I think it's just better off for everyone if I just have a little bit of a slowdown system. We'll just, impacts are punishing, but they're not gonna destroy your races or anything. So it just kind of seemed a bit unnecessary for the grand scheme of things. And yeah, so GP1 cars nowadays, very complex compared to what they used to be. I'm not sure if I think I need to tone them back a bit in terms of some of the complexities, like the engine temperature. That might just be a bit too much for some people to
give them flashbacks.
Also, on this whole display thing, I have enough glorification with that bike over there, so you should remove this one.
Say that again? What about? Hey, I kind of missed that.
It's alright. Let's move on to 2021.
Okay.
Alright, 2021 FVA GT Super Series. When the GT Super Series was created in the second half of 2021, it was formatted similarly to its bigger brother, Grand Prix 1. Both championships now managed under the Fédération Virtuelle de l'Automobile (FVA). Hosted by Amy Blobbery, initial turnouts were as few as 8 drivers, but the championship has since evolved tremendously, experimenting with various formats that nowadays attract nearly 20 drivers every race. The car that sits before you is only one of 63 different GT machines available to use in the series.
Yeah, so hang on, I gotta catch up. I was reading some chat here, so okay, yeah. So, some people don't know this, but the actual very first series that I ever hosted was under Racers Island when Mingo was in charge, and it was the I called it the GT Sprint Challenge. GT Sprint Challenge, yeah. So GT SC. They included. Did I mention that in here? Hang on. No, I don't think I did. So, yeah, a lot of the models that are in the GTSC are still used in GTSS today. Some of them I've retired, but GT Super Series in general, it's just, sports car racing is my favorite thing ever. I love it so much. I love it more than Formula One, more than NASCAR, IndyCar. Just that kind of brand identity and all the unique vehicles that are out there. It's like, because in Formula One they all look the same. IndyCar, they're all exactly the same. NASCAR, they're all basically the same thing out there, just with a slightly different nose to them. Sports car racing, everything is so much different. Everything sounds so much different. Everything drives so much differently. That last point, though, is a bit null here, because for the sake of fairness, everything drives exactly the same.
Yeah.
But
that's the irony.
Yeah, that's the irony. But just the legacy of what sports car racing, GT racing is in general, I love it so much just because of the variety. Variety is my favorite thing ever in racing. and especially with the fact that we're able to, with 63 different cars to currently pick from, we can express ourselves in so many different ways, not just with the cars we pick, but the way we design them, and it just adds so much more to a series to have all those kinds of options to you. It's roughly akin to Race SL, Formula SL, back when everyone could build their own cars, and no control speedway where people brought their own vehicles and ran up against each other. This is the modern equivalent of that, with being able to have those options to us. And some people like my cars, some people don't. I know that some of the SRL people who try them out aren't exactly too keen on them, because when you get on the throttle, they understeer like crazy. They kind of don't want to turn. But that's usually an initial first impression that I understand, but you get used to it really quick with the way that these things drive. And I'm kind of speaking defensively right here, but
They're not used to torque steering.
yeah, it is torque steering. That's exactly right. You have to. A lot of the steering is involved not just with the directional, with the left and right keys, but your throttle pedal. Because you lift off the gas, the rear end steps out a bit, and then you get on the gas, and you have to really work on positioning and racing lines. It's very important, and just I don't know. You'd think I'd have more to say about these cars, but it's just.
We're opening Emily's eyes to some new terms, because she has no clue what we're talking about. She just gets in the car and drives.
It's like, oh, that's what that is. Oh, I didn't know that's what I was doing this whole time. So, yeah. Yeah, the GT Super Series has been a lot of fun. It started off as a team-based championship. It was like GP1, where each team had 2 cars. They were both the same vehicle. It was basically just GP1, but with different car bodies and less people that showed up. It started pretty small, and they had damage as well, and it could be a bit controversial at times with how the races went, and we had some interesting tracks that we raced them on. But it's evolved quite a lot. It's now a completely different format. It went from team-based to single entries, and it was 2 races per event, and then we've just recently introduced the classic format, I'd like to say, which is what Race SL used to be, and some other championships before then, or after the fact, but before our stuff, where you have A, B, and C races, where not everyone's racing at the exact same time, but you split everyone up into groups, and then you give people opportunities to advance out of the lower groups to try and race for that top spot in the A's, and then race for the overall win if they can. And that went really well this last season, I'd say, and I'd like to continue it. It was supposed to be a trial run for GP1 potentially in 2026, but I really like for GTs. I think it needs to stay.
I agree. I don't know if it'll really, adapt to GP1, since you're trying to emulate a more Formula One kind of environment. But
yeah, that's a completely different topic of conversation. I still don't know what I want to do with Grand Prix 1, because this last season was. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that went wrong, and I'm not proud about it. I rushed the development. I delayed the development a bit of the cars, and there were some issues going on in the middle of it, and made some inappropriate calls here and there that just kind of added to the stress, and then I couldn't keep going. That was the first time I ever got burnt out and had to say, we need to stop.
I think you're just upset that the Crude Samaritans won.
You were gonna win that anyway, you two.
2024.
Only thing I can ask is just keep the teams as they are. No like free entries and stuff. Is all I can request by now.
Well, there's still time. I'm starting to have doubts that it'll come back in 2026A because of the time frame. I just don't know what to do yet. I think one of my thoughts are because I put a lot of work into the current cars. I want to keep the models at least, but I do want to try and tone back how complex they are. That might help a bit. Maybe change some things up with tires. I don't know. I'm just at a loss right now. it'll come back eventually. I'm not saying it's gone forever, but I don't know when it's going to come back. Right now, I'm very happy with how GTSS is going. I'm really happy with how GT Super Endurance is coming along, which we'll get to that here in a moment. So it's a good time, I'd say, to move on to the next vehicle.
2024 stock car from LCR, number 45, Astra Evergarden, winner of the 8th running of the Carbon Air 500. The 8th running of the Carbon Air 500, a race spanning back to May 2020, saw a 28-car field take to the track all at once, matching the previous running's attendance record. The 200-lap race is nowadays run on a twice-a-year basis during the FBA off-seasons. Only one driver, Donovan Michalski of Mosley Cars, has managed to win the race twice, both instances being when the race was run using Mosley Cars stock cars. The latest winner, Astra Evergarden, actually won the race on a technicality, being the only driver to somehow squeeze through a small gap between the detection gate and the wall, resulting in a lost lap that was later corrected. I have to say something about that. It's not that I managed to, I was forced to somehow, because that lap I was hit by someone against the wall in the right moment and right spot to skip that lap, so it was not like I managed to do it somehow. It was just
I think you should just remove this whole bottom part because it's irrelevant. At the end of the day, Ezra's the winner, and just Ezra's the winner. That's it. That's all you need to know. We don't have to, get into the details of what happened. Ezra's the winner, and this is, by far the most lucrative oval race that happens twice a year. You've managed to make a very special oval event, and it feels big when it happens. So all the winners should carry that accomplishment.
Yeah, the last race didn't necessarily go quite as well as as I wanted it to. In fact, I think it got a bit overblown in the post-race festivities. Well, there weren't really any festivities. It was post-race just chaos, I guess.
I mean, the thing is since it's an event that happens only twice a year, you don't really have the space and time to properly test things in other races, because there's not such a series with this format specifically. So when it happens, and that is it. So yeah, it's okay. I mean, the result is the result. I mean, no one forced the result to be different, that it was supposed to be according to the actual performance of people on track, so that's fine.
Yeah, so Candy says, was it the last one or the previous one where the Stig nearly crashed into the crowd? So that was the latest running, the 8th running of the race, where for the first time ever I screwed up the flyover.
No, that was the race before this.
Was it?
That was when Kira and I were commentating.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, it was the 7th running. Yeah, and I was doing the flyover with Stig on the account, and I'm always a bit rushed with it because I'm doing this all by myself. And I forgot. Oh shoot, I need to go. So I started to fly, and I forgot how much I need to slow down, and I didn't pull up in time, and right into the ground. So, Stig died. He lives in our memories.
Yes, that was. I look forward to such calamities taking place in the next Carbon Air 500, and as a former Carbon Air 500 winner just pointed out, Brave Ashburn said, "I have not won a single Carbon Air 500." So I'm I don't know. I'm 0 for 3 on these things.
Yeah, I think so, because you. Yeah. Cherno here says that they could do the flyover next time. That'd be, if people want to volunteer to do that, I'll gladly accept that. So Cherno, if you'd like to do that, that'd be great. So, because that's a lot less for me to have to deal with. That flyover is a lot more time mentally distracting than you think. So I've got all this stuff I'm trying to do at the same time with the driver start your engines and the anthems and announcements and whatnot, and trying to fly a plane through all that at the same time is, yeah. So let's see what Tony says. Tony says, not sure if this is strictly motorsports or if SL cycling should be mentioned as well, but still pretty neat to see cycling involved in that evolved from motorsports. Yeah, I didn't really think to include SL cycling because, well, it's not necessarily motorsports, it's pedaling around. The SLCF is a really big, respectable community. They do a lot of good stuff over there, and it's cool to see what they've been able to accomplish, and I've taken part in some of their races, and they can be a lot of fun. They have some cool venues as well, but unfortunately, I don't think they fit the bill for motorsports. If they ever put little tiny engines on their bikes, then maybe I can reconsider that, but in the meantime, although that being said, hang on, before I say that, or before you say anything, all vehicles in SL are technically electric. I could.
Well, technically, yes, of course.
Yeah. We're all role playing here, so
we're all role playing. We're all just making noises with our mouths.
I was going to say that the Cycling Federation, but today is big enough and independent enough to have probably their own stand at the SL 2022B or 23 or whenever they want, because it's a pretty big community themselves, so they definitely don't fall into the motorsport category, but they can still have their own exhibits at some point if they wish to organize it, because yeah, they are relevant enough. It's the same way as wrestling, you know. Wrestling is also a big sports community, and they have the capacity to have their own spot. So maybe for other sports that are not that popular could have a combined spot if they manage to meet and agree on that. But cycling in particular is big enough to have their own one, definitely.
To add to the stock car that's sitting here, Carmen 500 aside, we do race these quite regularly elsewhere. Candy tomorrow was generous enough to take these on when Callie wasn't able to run her own league that she had wanted to originally with these things, because I work with Callie in making these cars lack IP on them except for the tires. I didn't want to deal with those. Well, these tires have no IP. I did that because of SL22B, but the actual cars have Goodyear stuff on them. But because Callie wasn't able to run her own league, Candy took it upon herself, and I work with Candy too to develop the cars to work with her tracks, and she's built lots of ovals to that work with the cars, and I built the cars to help work with her tracks. And Fast Friday, a lot of people have heard that name. It's a lot of fun. These cars are great, and she does a really good job hosting them, and they will be returning after the Carmen 500 has been run as a full season on Fridays. So that'll be really fun to get back into.
So wanna switch to the last car?
Yeah, I think it's a good time to move on to the final.
2025, this is today. C25 Spider, his team racing number 9. In the second half of 2022, the GT Super Series was put on hold and replaced by GT Super Endurance, with continuous hosting by Emmy Blueberry. GTSE, a team-based car-sharing endurance championship, was originally intended to be run instead of Grand Prix 1 back in November 2020, if not for technical limitations. GTSC has since gone on to prove itself as one of the least predictable categories run under the FVA banner, with the exception of Season 2, where we won the series Invictus, seeing totally unexpected outcomes over the various hour-long races. On display before you is the 2025 A GT Super Endurance entry of his team racing, piloted by Emily Onyx, Naomi Lockett and Callie Finesmith, overall season champions and winners of the FVA GTSE Tokyo 2 hours endurance race?
GT Super Endurance, when I finally had the ability to put something together that I had been envisioning for so long, with the help of Donovan. He was a big help in making that happen. Was so much. I was finally beginning to realize my dream that I had been pursuing for years by that point. And Emmy, who has been with me the entire time that I joined racing, was generous enough to offer to take up hosting duties because she wanted to give me the opportunity to participate in a big organized racing championship, because I couldn't do that with GP1. You can't do that as a race host. As a race host, you are supposed to be, well, sorry, as a serious rule-based race host, not stuff like SRL or Fast Friday or whatnot. If you're running a league that has rules and regulations, as a race host, you should be officiating, like off the track. So I couldn't do that with GP1. Emmy, seeing how much I love this, wanted to give me the opportunity to drive, so she has since and always hosted GT Super Endurance and GT Super Series, so that I could get out there and be a team owner and drive at the same time. And that first season was that very first race we ever ran, with the hybrid system and everyone involved, with Husaria taking the very first victory in a nail biter. Was it Husaria? No, it wasn't. Husaria almost won the very first race. It was so close because we had Benetto's Academy team, Benetto Academy, I think it was called, who had run out of fuel on the very last lap and were trundling along, and Cherno, who was here with us, was coming up on them real fast, and Pasta was screaming from the pits, "Come on, Cherno, you got it!" Didn't quite get there in time, but it was so much fun to watch. It was exhilarating after an entire hour of racing to see it come down to that. And that's basically what GTSC has been its entire period, except for Season 2. Season 2, we don't talk about Season 2 that much. But it's... You may... the winners may be a bit repetitive, but you don't know who's going to win up until those final 10-15 minutes or so, or even less than that, because the races can just be that unpredictable as they go along. You could have massive crashes, you could screw up your pit stops, your driver changes. Over an hour, you don't realize just how much can actually happen. You'd think that people would just run off with it, but no, and that doesn't go for just the winner. That could go for second place. That could go for the battle for third place, down to fourth and fifth. You could have exciting races happening at the back end of the field when it just, there's always something to look at. And I'm very, very happy with how this last season of GTSC went. It was so much fun to take part in. It was so much fun to see what people were able to accomplish, and I'm so proud of HIS being able to pull off their very first championship with a lineup that probably initially right out of the gate didn't look like a obvious championship contender, because Evely, of course, was really fast in GP1, but this was a new environment. And then we had Naomi Lockett, who was still brand new, had just risen out of the GP2 races, which had gotten cut short because GP1 got cut short. So with the leadership of Callie Finesmith and support of Millie D. Imp, the team owner, and then with the really hard work of Evely and Naomi, they managed to, I could say, surprise everyone. They beat, like, Evely would get pole from me every now and again. My team would lead the race for a while, and then suddenly we'd run into some difficulties, either by mistakes or pace, and we'd get overtaken at the end. It's just, GTSC is so much fun. And I'm really excited to see it continue moving on in the future. We're moving it back to Sundays, because I feel that the big championships should be on Sundays. That's typically when most people are available. And I hear that there are, at the very least, going to be 2 brand new teams with full-fledged efforts that want to get involved, on top of a number of individual drivers who have expressed interest in joining teams themselves. So that's more so a bit on a casual basis, or they're just kind of interested and just want to get their feet wet and see what it's like. That does raise some challenges, though, that I have to consider for the upcoming season, because we had transitioned the pits to individual cars instead of teams sharing a single slot. But with so many interested parties that want to take part now, we may have to recondense to teams sharing a spot. I may have to adjust the tire wear a little bit so that the window of pitting is a little bit wider so that people aren't stressing so much about double stacking. That'll help a lot. So we're also introducing for the newest season gesture controlled pit stops. So finally, and a lot of people are going to be familiar with this who raced RAR cars or older oval racing cars from the past. When we currently stop, you have to click on the cars to initiate the pit stops. You click on the car, it pops up a menu, then you have to rapidly click on the button to get the stop going, and it's frantic, and some people it doesn't work out with them too well, because you have to be very coordinated with your mouse, and sometimes your internet connection can be a factor in how fast that menu pops up and how fast the request is processed. So we're going to have gestures. You can map it to any key you want on your keyboard, and then all you have to do is be below a certain speed. You press your button and it starts to stop. Nice and easy for everyone. So teams that were struggling badly with their pit stops last season with getting them started, because you could lose like 3 to 4 seconds just trying to get the stop started, that won't be a thing anymore, so long as people remember to press the button. So that will make it even more competitive, which will be really interesting to see.
Yeah, so like Luke is trying to level the playing field. So if you suck at just pressing the key, like, come on. Maybe you don't deserve to win.
It's a massive team effort. What's GTSC is, everyone's got to play their part. So one wrong move can rewrite the entire direction of the race. You could be the leader the entire time, screw up a stop, pit too far in your box, and accidentally start it while you're outside of the box, and your whole race is just about finished. That's what makes it so unpredictable, even though we tend to see the same winner more often than not. But that unpredictability up until that point is what makes the series so engaging. Yeah. But that is... Yeah, geez, that's it. We've gone through the whole thing, and it's taken us over 2 hours to do.
It took
I
us,
thought that...
3 hours and 20.
3 hours? When
3
did we
hours
start?
and
10?
20, yeah. Yes.
Oh my gosh!
It's like
Gosh, and I thought...
you
and I
couldn't
thought
stop talking about yourself, Luke, and we were just like sitting here and listening to you.
And I thought Broken Voxel's video was really long, because he did this for 45 minutes looking at each thing. Not that I thought it was a really long in a bad way, but 3 hours, goodness. And it's still going, obviously. We're 15 minutes into the 4th hour. Tony says, I'd be down to help develop something along with Don or whoever for a pit HUD or something. Tire wear, individual tire swaps, whatever. I still want to develop a different kind of draft one day too, factoring in position as well. Yeah, no, I mean, go ahead, find whoever you want to work with, try and make some new, innovative, cool stuff out there. We'd love to try it out. I mean, that's what the racing community is. Racing is innovation. And as you can see with this entire timeline from 2003, well, 2006 technically, or even 2005, because, you know, we have some people who have started their motorsports development careers back in that period. It's evolved a lot, and everything is just, that's, even in real life, comparable to real life, racing is innovation. It's all about inventing new things, trying new things, seeing what sticks, what doesn't work, filtering out all kinds of things. It's just, yeah, I'm losing my train of thought here.
SL is just the Roblox for boomers. So
don't compare to Roblox. For the love of all that is holy, do not compare to Roblox.
It's Roblox for boomers. That's what it is. So you're free to test things, create things, still innovate. There's still a lot of room to come up with the next new thing. Um,
Yeah,
and
I go ahead.
no, and like everybody will is accepting of like if there's something better, then we might as well try it. Whatever
Yeah,
makes the experience better.
yes, yeah. I mean, the creators, they come and go, and ideas, they stick or they land or they flop, or it's just, you just have to try. If you're that and if you're ambitious enough and you're that dedicated, reach out to anyone you can. Like, make connections. Having connections to build your ideas and shape them and make them a reality not only helps them materialize faster, but you can draw knowledge from so many other people, and then you create these long-lasting connections that can bloom into something that you never expected. Like between me and Donovan, I had no idea that we'd be able to build up what we have so far. He's got his neck of the woods locked down, and he's created so much cool stuff, and I'm happy that I've been able to build up a strong community of racers that can, pick off knowledge from one another and share their experiences and create all kinds of really cool things. And I'm just proud, really, more than anything, that of what we've all been able to throw together. Because when I started, racing felt pretty dead, I'll be honest. Because again, as Anthony Stewart told me yesterday, 2019, 2020, that was Elsa Racing's COVID. Everything kind of shut down, and I jumped in right at pretty much the middle of all that, and I really wanted to see something big and organized and put together. Yeah, I'm losing my train of thought again. Sorry, everyone.
Anthony Stewart is somebody who's been around since that block over there since 2007, so they know a thing or two about the evolution of SL racing.
Yep, he said that. So that 2006 video I talked about, one of the earliest SL racing videos I've ever seen, probably the earliest I've ever seen. He said he was in that race, so he's been around since basically the beginning. So, yeah, I'll be honest. I don't want this to end. This is so much fun. I'm having a lot of fun talking about all this racing, and it's unfortunate that it ends here because I wanted to include so much more stuff. I just didn't have the space for it. I hit my prim limit. I didn't have enough vehicles on me or from others to. Some of these vehicles are padded, the padding just to try and get some more content in here. But maybe with the future build.
Next year, you'll put my car right here.
Just at some point, this will keep growing to the point where it's going to be closed off and no one can get inside.
Yeah, like this whole thing will just be like a very subtle nod to my legendary accomplishments in SL racing.
Yeah. No. I mean, with the permanent build, I could definitely extend the wall quite a bit more. I just want to keep this open for people who are passing by to see. A bit easier. But I don't even know how to close this out. I don't even know if we want to close it out yet. Asdra, you're the one streaming. What do you have to say about all this?
It's up to you guys. If you feel like keep talking, we can keep talking. You're the experts. So if there's something else you want to say, you can. Otherwise, we can close the stream.
Candy here says, and this is just the well-documented places. There's lots of little places and groups that came and went quickly.
Yeah, like Cocopelli was kind of like a revolution against Slascar it was like when Slascar had its drama going on, it was almost like the IRL/kart split, and it kind of split people, and Cocopelli was like the IRL and
Indie Racing League, for those who don't know.
Yeah, and they were trying to do something new, something more provocative, I guess, and try to adhere to many people's issues, but that didn't last very long because the leadership kind of broke down, and I think that's what ultimately why you have so many so many stalls here is because somebody thinks they can always do it better, and some people do, and some people are really good at what they do. But everybody has their own idea, and doesn't always last forever. But at least they tried. That's the important thing. At least they tried.
Yeah, again, it's the whole thing about innovation, trying things out. If you feel like you've got an idea, I mean, granted, you have to kind of think it through just to make sure you're not stepping on people's toes. Depends on the situation, I guess. But it's all it is. Just people trying to make stuff work the way they feel that it should be, and how they want to see things go. And sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, but yeah, a lot of stuff here that wasn't shown that has existed, like Gearhead Car Club, Coal Cracker Racing, two entities, one and the same. That was a big racing sim that I wish I had something here for. I'm sorry again, but we'll have that in the future. There was Renegade Racing Association. They've been around for a very long time. I couldn't get anything from them, but maybe that can change because they have quite a bit of history themselves. They have videos from 5-6 years ago on YouTube.
And like Brave is saying in the YouTube comments, there's no mention of SMC, which was a huge kind of like where everybody kind of
that's
cut
right. Yes, SMC. So Anthony Stewart told me that he has cars from that point. He'd like to donate as well. So he said that SMC or something like that. He's got vehicles from the very first ever racing sim in Second Life, to his knowledge, at least. That would be really cool. And then there's other racing groups that have popped up here and there. Like there are Japanese specific racing groups that are extremely isolated. They don't want anyone else who isn't Japanese taking part. But the racing is everywhere. It's just, and it's been everywhere. A lot of people don't know about it because it's very difficult to document stuff in Second Life oftentimes. And I like Morticia, like Callie. I love history, and I love to document history. I love to explore history, and I have the opportunity to display it for all sorts of people to see who either never saw it before or forgot about stuff or wanted to see it again. Let's see. Tony says here. Oh, he says, well, thanks for all you do, and thanks for the other developers that aren't here. Thanks for developing and hosting the experiences we all enjoy, and especially thanks to the whole community, all the people here, and not everyone involved that make it fun, competitive, and bring the whole experience together. Yes. Yep. Takes a village, Callie says. Yes, it does. It's not just one person. It's multiple people, 2 people, 3 people, tens of people, hundreds. Nothing exists without the involvement both of the creators, the developers, the hosts, and the drivers themselves. So. Oh boy.
Alright, so I guess that's all for today. In that case, thank you everyone for watching the live stream. I really hope that you enjoyed this. It lasted way more than we thought. Actually, we expected it to last like 1 hour at most, but in the end it was 3 hours and a half.
Goodness.
So it's a lot of information documented now for as long as YouTube exists, which looks like it's gonna be for many years. And
I don't know who painted this car. Who painted this car?
Say again? Oh, Evely painted that.
Really?
Yeah. I was originally going to paint it, but then Evely started taking, her cars are amazing. She paints some really cool cars, so I thought, yeah, go ahead, go right ahead. The only thing that she carried over was the snakehead design that I have put on all his cars since its inception. So she carried that on that tradition. The snakehead on the nose with the fangs. She did a really good job with it.
So that's it then. So we are gonna close the live stream now. Again, thank you all for watching. Today is the last day of the SL22B, so this stand won't be available.
I think so.
Yes.
We're pretty much right at the tail end, so.
Yes, I talked with Viola about it to have the official dates when they start to work here, and she said that today was the last day this is open, so tomorrow, Monday, will mostly be already gone. So we have to do this today, otherwise we didn't have any other date. Thanks to Morty, because she gave me the idea of live streaming the exhibition, just to have it safe for us to watch. And also thanks to Luke for letting me know about my 45 subscriptions in the channel, since you know it's the number I use in the races. So I thought that in combining this number of subscribers and the live stream of the exhibition as a special 45 subscribers live stream, so that it is. Thank you also JC for joining us and giving us a lot of information and history about what we saw. Thank you as well to Kali Finesmith, that also gave us some information, to Candy Tomorrow, to Tonga, that also gave us some inputs, to Tony, and to Cherno, that also shared with us some of their experience, especially with Gearhead Club, and also to Raul and Mitri, that were with us here watching the live stream. And that's it for today. So thank you everyone again, and see you next week for whatever event we have.
Yep. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I hope you enjoyed this extremely long conversation. Good to keep on the side if you just want to listen like a podcast style thing. We have events coming up soon. Keep an eye on the calendars. Carmen 500 is on the 17th, and then of next month, and then on the 2nd in 2 weeks. Tokyo 24-hour race, no rules race. Use whatever vehicle you want around Tokyo LC racing circuits. See how many laps you can complete and be the top dog.
Also, I am not Jaffa Tendaze, I swear.
Okay, we will take that, I guess. So yeah, that's it. So thank you again, and see you next week.
Bye-bye.